Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.
Hey folks, good evening. Welcome to another money space with me, Kalu Aja. Of course, on this space, we're talking money, the economy, and personal finance. We want to make those topics easy for you to follow and understand so you become a better investor and, of course, a better citizen. Of course, this week we're reviewing half year 2025. What's happened this half year, what have the asset classes delivered, i.e., what have stocks delivered, property, commodities, equities, and Olumide is here. We're going to talk really Nigeria, sort of the US, because what the US does has an effect on Nigeria directly. You might even argue that the dollar is now a second legal tender in Nigeria. You can make that argument, right? So what the US does is key to Nigeria. So we'll try to sort of do macro, right, and try to do from the top down. So let's look at what the world is doing, and we'll try to walk us through from the world. We'll look at the Nigerian aspect, and then we'll try to, if possible, give you guys insights on where you can put your money. We're not going to try to give you the individual stocks, but at least the sector you should be looking at. Now we've got AI. If you tell AI, listen, this sector, it should give you good, should we say, where you should look at. So we're going to show you where the forest is, but then hopefully you can find the trees in that forest. We'll try to point you in that direction. So hang on, take your pen and your paper if you're here, and just take those, should we say, signals as we make them. Again, just overall, everything we do here is all educational. Neither Olumide or I hold out ourselves as your investment advisors. Stocks are very, very risky. Before you invest, speak to your own investment advisor. We're not making you a recommendation to buy or to sell. Olumide, you want to come online and sort of introduce yourself, then we can get going.
Yeah, good evening, Carlo. It's a great honor to be in your space. Thanks for inviting me. I think I'll just do a brief introduction, but I think I want to talk about space, and I think it's very important for people to understand the historical and the importance and the success of this space. So I'm a financial market writer. I basically make sense of what's happening around the market. I do this for a living. I work in different markets, work with different financial firms, work with different banks in terms of newsletter, PR. I also invest in the market, so I have a stake in the market. And for those listening, I think I can see some features that I'm familiar with. I think Carlos Space has been very educative. If you look back as far back as Spaces started on Twitter, you would understand that there is really any asset class category that we will not discuss about. And if you look at the market, the way the market is right now, those that had ears, those that had the ability to discern, those that apply, those that spend time, really digging through why we talk about these things rather than just argue, rather than just trying to make sense for optics sake. I think they have reasons. So I think one of the importance of this space, and I think you deserve so much accolades, because it's very tough to be consistent, very, very tough. You recall that some years back it was very difficult to talk about Nigerian stocks or foreign stocks. Now we see so many articles talking about creating. So yeah, I think kudos, you deserve that kudos. Even though sometimes you don't like to talk about it, but I think it's good to clear these things out because financial literacy, financial empowerment, it goes a very long way. You see the Americans, you could talk about liquidity, you could talk about the knowledge, the passion, the reward for risk, the attitude, their mentality. And it's very, very important. And I think that's one of the things that people need to understand, that it's not just about understanding. It's not just about the politics, not just about our tribe, our religion. Also, utilizing whatever tool you have, because life is unfair. And life is not just. We just have to be realistic. Life doesn't move in a straight line. So Yeah, this is really going to be unique, and I'm really going to, because I came in prepared, because I wrote some reports that I've not shared anywhere, so I'm going to divert that into the space. And for those that started back here, if you reflect, because Carlo will record the space, if you reflect back, I'm sure you have a lot to be happy about. And for me personally, I'll give you one good example. Early this year, Carlo was talking about ETFs, and I'm very skeptical about ETFs, to be honest with you, but there's one thing I used to see when you see other gentlemen in the room talking about things and you really don't really support, you talk to other people, and I was like, okay, let me tap into Bitcoin spot ETF. And I increased buying pressure on that. And I can tell you that it's one of the best investment I did this year, because I was very aggressive on it. I had other positions on that market. So that's also an example of having the understanding and also consulting your investment brokers. That's what they have to do, educational. But I hope that people that are on the space will not try to see it as an investment advice, Carlos, but they understand the rationality and what's brought about those returns. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah. Olumide, thank you so much again for being here. And we're going to just tap into that wealth of knowledge that you have. Olumide, let's dive straight in. We're doing macro down. So I pulled up the returns. Let's talk stocks now, just stocks. I pulled the returns for the global equity markets. Hong Kong is doing about 19%, right? Germany 18%, Italy 15%. If you start to go down the ladder, you get to China. China about 0.9%. The US 1.6%. Nigeria's about 17%. Then you go to Japan. Japan is dead, minus 4% return. So half year, what we're seeing is that the Chinese themed companies, Hong Kong, Macau, doing very well, but China and the US doing poorly. Is this trade talks? What's going on a macro level? Let's talk about China, the US, first of all, then we'll come to Nigeria. What do you think is happening with these large economies? Yeah, Europe is doing very well, but China and America are lagging.
Yeah, so Carl, thanks again for having me. So I'll try to be very brief and diffuse listeners of financial jargons. So if you look at this year, it has been very volatile. What I mean volatile, price swings. There have been a lot of price swings, and categorically the reason is because of the geopolitical uncertainty that has escalated with tariffs, so much drama in the Middle East, which we'll talk about later. But coming back in, let's not forget that the US had a solid 2024. The US stock market came out fairly strong. So looking at this year-to-date return might be quite unfair. And if you look at stocks individually, Nvidia is an all-time high, Microsoft, all cylinders. There's certain stocks, but on India generally, yes, it's been weighed. It's been looking lukewarm, and the reason is not far-fetched. President Trump came in, even though the market saw him as the market-driven president, but he felt that the world has cheated America enough. And to be honest, he had some reasons to feel that way. So that really kicked on the US financial market. It got so bad that if you look at the US dollar to the euro gained by 13% this year. You look at the British pound to the US dollar, it's about 9% up. So it really tells you how bad investors saw the optics around tariffs, so the fact that there was less trust in the US market. Then, the interference between President Trump and the US Fed chief also created crisis in the debt market. The debt market is usually what we call the US Treasury market, where banks, where companies, governments taking or transact debts, And why that market is very important is that it's tied to all the other asset classes, So it got so bad that we saw yields, looking the US 10 yields going close to 5%, and that's really worrisome because at some point President Trump threatened to dismiss. So the market felt like, oh, this is really. So it got so terrible in April that I already felt like, well, this is the multi-media market correction. They didn't buy in, to be honest with you, but I tapped into the Panda crypto assets because I felt like I would push on. I didn't sell, but I felt that there was no need buying more. I felt that things were going to get worse, but I think I was wrong because the markets readjusted and things picked up. But if you look at it on that macro side, just like Carlos said, the US market really was down, and US investors really what we call move funds to their trans to their transallies, the Europeans, and that's really one of the reasons why the Europeans stock market is really doing well, their currency, because increased buying pressure. Don't forget that US owes the global liquidity in terms of the fusion of money, So I think that really helped the European market and the Asian market, particularly China that you talked about. They've been having problems with the real estate market, debt also, and the iron fist of the president really, one cannot forget what happened to Alibaba and things like that. That's still way on the market. So, Carlo, generally, on the macro side, the US economy still looks very solid. Latest job reports still shows that employment, the US economy is healthy, but the market is really looking at the future. Tariffs coming again July 9. President Trump is still talking about those things back and forth. He had a good deal with the UK, so UK seems to be isolated, and that's why I'm not surprised the UK stock market did very well. But before I come to Africa, I think what the market is saying is that tariff definitely is bad news. Looking at the commodity space, it's been so.
Do you mind me just stopping there so we can catch up, right? But let me just throw this at you. When Trump announced the independence, there was the Liberation Day tariffs that was going to tariff the whole world, including Nigeria. He tariffed penguins, tariffed islands, tariffed literally the whole world. The entire stock market crashed. And I felt that was an opportunity. I think we tweeted that out, that you have to follow your strategy, follow your long-term plan, ignore the white noise. The market in the US has recovered and even added. So what's the lesson for us here? That if we have a long-term strategy, Trump is maximum 4 years, right? Whatever policy he wants to bring out, as long as we have that long-term plan and long-term that we want to do, we want to ensure that we are always staying focused on plan. That's the key lesson for us here. Last week, we saw Canada try to do some tax on American IT firms. They're trying to copy what the Europeans do. So they put a tax on Google and Meta and all that. And Trump responded by pulling off from the Canadian-US trade talks. And the Canadian market crashed. Again, a buying opportunity for you if you want to be exposed to Canada. The point I'm getting to is that the market has become irrational. I think the market is looking at personalities and not earnings. So for you listening on the space, you want to be ready to take advantage of those mismatches in the market. And I give you a clear example. In the US, they measure inflation expectations. So they will go to you and ask you, what do you think inflation will be in the next 6 months? And that's a very, very important poll because the expectation of inflation is as important as inflation itself. If you look at when they ask the guys that work in Wall Street and they ask the guys that maybe just normal Americans, they have a very, very muted answer to where they think inflation is going to go to. They think it's going to be up, but not 1-2%, right? When they ask, and again, I'm just being direct here, when they ask folks that vote Democrat, they have a 6 to 7% expectation inflation on their mind. So they believe in America, if you are a quote-unquote a Democrat, that inflation is going to get so bad that there's no point holding equities, so you have to sell. There's no point holding long-term bonds, so you have to sell. Like you should buy a lot of short-term bonds. That is not based on reality because, again, the Wall Street guys that know are saying this is not reality. So if you play that personality investing, you can make a lot of money just playing off the personality-driven malinvestment happening in the US. You make a lot of money. I think that's what we're seeing, that the market has gone up and down, And people have said, okay, these tariffs are not as bad as they are. Like you said, the trade talks with the UK, trade talks with Vietnam have gone through. We're waiting on the EU. So what's the fuss all about?
Yeah, let me add this. I think another thing that I've learned this year is the strategy really matters. Like you mentioned it, that it's better to have a long-term and clear view of your perspective. So for me personally, I had a good 2024 in the US stock market, and I was pretty worried I was so exposed because I spend in the euro, I stay in the eurozone, and most of my earnings are in the dollar. So I recall that I spoke with my investment bankers then, and I was arguing with them that doesn't it make sense that I move a large chunk of my funds to Africa and to the side? And they were asking me that what's my argument behind that? And I was like saying that I'm pretty much feeling that the Indians really try to build or catch up because President Trump had already announced the fact that it's not going to be a sugar daddy for anyone. Everybody needs. So I thought that spending and the German chancellor made me argue that. And I think, to be honest with you, Carl, if you look at the fact that I funds from the last chunk of funds from the United States European zone, I've made more than just even without looking at my returns. I'm up 13%, 13%, and I think it's a year that even stupid people make a lot of money. Look at commodities, soya beans, 59%, gold is 21%, silver, industrial metals, palladium, platinum. So it boils to the fact that all the things you were saying, stay in the market, you always see opportunities. I think for me, my own mistake this year was sometimes, no matter how prudent, no matter how calculative, sometimes the crowd gets into you. Many coins was a disaster for me. In fact, I'm so happy that the currency market really made me come because assets that don't really have intrinsic value, when they are put into test, you see what happens. So Bitcoin's resilience in the market has been fantastic. I was even thinking at some point, was it going to test back to 50,000? From 75, it bounced back to all-time high before stating below the 1,110. Look at the effect it has on Coinbase. Look at the effect it has on the space, and particularly the fact that the United States has signed the Genus Act where stable coins. I really took position in Circle, and it was very exciting. Circle did about 6x in a span of 5 weeks. So it tells you the fluidity in the space that staying invested and taking a long-term view will definitely take out the noise. And definitely, I totally align with that. I just wanted to add that to your argument, Carl.
Okay, so let's go back to equity. So now that we've seen that the US market is sort of down, China's market is sort of down, and the Europeans are up, Nigeria is about 17%. If you had to look into the next 6 months of the year, do you think the US market starts to come back up again, or do they stay where they are? What are going to be those key drivers I want to look at?
Yeah, so the United States and the market you don't argue against. I look at the graph from 19th century to year to date has been upward trajectory. The US market has been consistent. And I think I shared videos with my followers that you look at top guys on Wall Street when what are the best investments for people, and most of them mention index funds. The rationality behind this is that over time, index funds outperform the United States inflation and the valuation of that currency, which totally makes a lot of sense. But if you look at the fact that we are Nigerians, and many Nigerians buy these assets with premium, thank God that now Nigerians can now access the Naira market with the dollar market with their Naira debit card, though it's still ongoing. So I think people need to be patient. These things are not immediate because the bank pass and that you just have to give it some days, but it means that you can get it at a fair, much better rate than what these fintech guys were giving you. So I think probably I'm expecting a correction at some point, but like we said, you look at the way the market fell in April and bounce back, you definitely have to start taking those. You look at stocks. As for me, I'm looking at stocks coming to play in US stock market. There's some companies coming to list. I will not try to mention them. I think for people that really want to get to know the stock. You can look at Morningstar, very popular stock review, gives you analysis of the US stock market and stocks that are coming to play. So you could really check on that. Then you could also read on top banks like Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs. They have newsletters on these stocks. But on the macro cycle, to be honest with you, I think the US market will correct. That's my expectation. I don't see breaking. I follow Bank of America's analysis to report that looking at where the S&P 500 index is, there's a resistance around that 6,200 support. So I'm expecting a correction. And the fact that the US most powerful monetary official might be replaced very soon, it means that there might still be unclarity. Rates, the US job data means that the US Fed might not increase rates. So that really might create another cohesion between the fiscal and monetary side of the United States. But overall, the US economy seems to be on top. I think when there's a correction on market, I think the dollar will come back. That's why I'm increasing my buying pressure on the DXY. My perspective is that the dollar sell-off in the first half of the year was overdone. Europe, I don't think Europe will continue to catch up as I think it will correct also. But I think over time, the Asian market, particularly the Chinese market, I think the sell-off is at oversold position. So I'm expecting some traders to reverse that. So I'm looking at interesting names. I think I really tapped into Alibaba because Alibaba was listed in the stock market. And I looked at the fundamentals around that space. So I think the Chinese will definitely get some. Back to Africa, I think Nigeria.
Don't hop yet. Let's just stay on this America because I think let's just again review what you said. Right, the U.S. market is the largest, most liquid market in the entire world. So you cannot be an investor if you're not exposed in one way or another to the U.S. market. So folks are asking on DM, what should I invest in the U.S.? Let me give you a way to do this. They just passed in the US the One Big Beautiful Bill. That's the actual name, the One Big Beautiful Bill. What's in that bill? You know, they asked an arm robber once in the US, why did you rob banks? What was his answer? That's where the money was. So if you're an investor, you want to invest, where should you invest? Let's say you have a short to medium term horizon. Where should you invest? You want to invest where the money is flowing to. The money is going somewhere and you invest there. Of course, you're now on the growth trajectory. So where in that large US market is money going to? Three main sectors. There's a smaller one, but there are three main sectors. Number one is defense. Number two is energy. And I just shared on my page the third one, defense, energy, and AI. These are the three sectors that money is going to flow to the US. When Trump went to the Middle East, he brought $5 trillion. More than a quarter of that was on AI. Investing in AI, either it's data centers or the actual software, but AI. The US in this bill wants to spend about 25 billion, I believe 25 billion on, they want to build their own Iron Dome, the same way the Israelis have. They want to build an Iron Dome in the US. They also want to now focus on drilling. Drill, baby, drill. That's the US plan to increase oil output. So this is where the money is going to go to. Trillions are going to go there. They've also said, if you have a green project and you are going to use American input to do that green project, that project will get expedited approval for taxes and all that in the US. So what does that mean for you? If you want to invest, ask Grok, ask Google, what is the ETF, exchange traded fund, that I can buy that has a focus on AI, on energy, on defense? Not just in the US. NATO is going to spend 5% of their GDP now on defense. All NATO states, Germany, France, UK, all of them are going to have to spend 5%. That means there's going to be more money flowing to defense. What's defense stocks? It's aerospace, missiles, drones, all that kind of stuff. Exactly. So you don't want to go too far. They've already given you the answer. What you want to do, you've seen the forest, is to find a tree in the forest. If you don't have the time to find a tree in the forest, buy the entire forest. How do you buy the entire forest? You buy the ETF. I'll give you examples. Why I choose Vanguard is because it's large, so it's cheap. So if you go to Vanguard, Vanguard is the kind of company, or Fidelity ETF. Just say which Fidelity ETF tracks energy or defense and all that. They will give it to you. It's very, very cheap. You buy it. So when you buy, yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask you a question. So I'm just talking like the audience. So for example, you definitely have access to this asset. But for Nigerians living in Nigeria that have not traveled abroad, can they get asset directly?
Of course.
First question. Because I know Standard Chartered provide all these assets you mentioned about. But for you to access that directly, you need a minimum of $50,000.
Of course you can. No, not really. If you so let me do a few plugs. If you are Nigerian, right? We have these Nigerian apps now that allow you to invest in ETFs from America. Let me do a few plugs for you. There's Cowrie, so you can Google Cowrie Wise. They get the app. They are on Twitter, Cowrie Wise. I'll try to show you those names. There's Bamboo. There's Shaka. Shaka is now bought by Rise. Shaka stock. So there's Bamboo, Cowrie Wise, Shaka. There are many of them. If you get on those apps with Naira, you can search for the ETFs. For instance, if you want to buy the Vanguard ETF that does energy, that's going to be VDE. You just look for it's just a trade. You look for the VDE, right? If you put VDE, it will pop up. And you can use Naira and buy those American stocks. What you're actually doing is that those apps in Nigeria are going to a US broker and they're giving you settlement in the US. The Nigerian guys are just the front office to access the Nigerian market. So if you do that, you're able to get exposure, and you are buying fractional shares. So you might not have, like Lumide said, the money to buy these stocks in full, but you're going to buy the fraction of that stock. So a stock of maybe ExxonMobil, maybe $300. You don't have $300, so you can buy one quarter of $300 of wealth. So you have exposure to the ETF. So that's the point I'm making. So don't wait to say till I have $20 before you get exposed, right? Look for that exposure. The fourth one I was saying, like, the small part is the what's it called? The rare earths. The US is now having to do rare earths because China has showed them pepper with rare earths. They have a mine in Montana opening up that's going to do rare earths. Also nuclear energy. So nuclear energy, rare earths are also a growth force in the US now because they have to invest in those to power AI. So you see how the force is growing bigger. To do AI, there's this story where Levi Strauss, the jean you wear, Levi Strauss jeans, he went to look for gold and he found that it was easier to make money selling shovels to the guys that are looking for gold than to look for gold yourself. So if you want to do AI, you don't have to buy the AI tech. If you invest in nuclear power, those small nuclear power plants that are powering the AI data centers, that's also how you invest in that market share. So I'm going to make the project just to give you guys, Olumide has given us the lay of the land, but how can you take advantage of that lay of the land? Like, do the ETFs, do the small one, invest, get that exposure, broaden your side. So Olumide, yeah, I think I'm good.
I think I'm also, I think I align with that, but another thing a lot of people need to understand is just like, okay, for Kalu is a financial professional, so he knows how to get into a stock. He doesn't just buy a stock blindly. There are things he looks for. He just mentioned the fundamentals, right? So there are two types of way people look at stock: fundamentals and the technical analysis. The technical analysis are what financial professionals use when they use data to look at the intrinsic or the real to true value or the expectation of the asset class. While fundamental is just the perspective of using news, political narratives to tailor which Carl has given policies to tailor the guidance of the stock. But one of the problems I figured out, because these conversations are for Nigerians, so one of the problems I figured out, feedbacks I get, is people don't really understand how to get into a stock, how to sell the stock. So first of all, you need to have an investment objective. I think I shared a lot of videos where investment bankers spoke about the importance of having an emergency fund, how to divide your assets according to your age. So I assume most of us here are young. So definitely, if you're not working, you have some savings. Make sure you have an income that really keeps you running, or you have some savings on the side. Then you look at what you want to invest over the years. What are you looking at? Like, look at the things Carlo mentioned. What's your projection? Are you trying to build a house beside Dangote? Are Are you trying to go to a business school? Are you trying to improve your intellectual capacity? Are you trying to get into the market to understand companies, businesses? We all have different perspectives, so it's not a general conversation. So usually I advise that you have another person in the room. Like even if you're a financial professional, you need investment bankers, you need stockbrokers. So you can get these guys at at Main Street, Broad Street, Lagos, or you could just Google the SEC website, list of stockbrokers in Nigeria. I've mentioned a lot the popular ones, the ones that have traditional offices. You can get. You don't have to use them, but it's better you have a relationship with them. The reason is that you will start to build the capacity to discern and get valuable information to check. It's always good to verify every information. It's always good to verify your money. It's very important. So that's one. So when you have designed your asset allocation, you have your investment objective. Now you can now look at, this is what I'm saying. Okay, what am I looking at? What is my long-term? Are you going long-term? For me, for example, personally, US stocks are long-term. I've been holding some US stocks since 2009. In Nigeria, it's a different story entirely. The currency market is different. So my objective is different. My risk tolerance is different. Some people, like crypto, I see Nigerians that they can put 100 million in crypto, in mini coins. I can't do that, So you have to know your risk tolerance and try to fine-tune it to this is very, very important. I just want to add that.
Okay, let's do Nigerian stocks now. Since we've sort of talked about Nigerian stocks are about 17%, right? Year to date. That's the return right now, about 17-18. Yeah. What are we looking at? Yeah.
Nigerian stocks are pumping. I think it's an interesting year, this year, I remember the space, I only spoke about one stock, and that was the only stock I felt that was undervalued. And I increased so much buying pressure. That was MTN Nigeria. I thought that MTN at 179 was cheap, and I think data has proven me right. But if you look at it from the other side, Presco, Okomo, Presco reached the a new high, reached the 1 trillion naira valuation. Look at GT at some point was looking like going to be worth $2 billion. The stock is going to be listed in the London Stock Exchange. It actually has a GDR exposure. You look at the upcoming of the reforms and the fact that liquidity has been unlocked at levels not seen with the capitalization exercise triggered by the CPN. We saw banks raising about 2 trillion in 2024, and this year alone, they've seen about 500 billion entering the market investors. So altogether, have about 2.5. And I think what we see in the market is that it looks like a race between the energy, banking, and now the manufacturing. When President Zugbe came in on board in 2023, he talked about energy reforms. Energy stocks in 2023 were the best performing. The banks started catching up. It looks like it's first time looking like a pullback. When it looks like banks were going to be able to raise, they reached their all-time. Now we're seeing manufacturing stocks. For the first time in 2025, in a half year, we're not seeing banks or energy stock in the top 10 because manufacturing are just taking Nestle took back their $1 trillion naira valuation. It's breaking. It looks like a matter of time it might break the 1,800 resistance. You look at it's been amazing, and I think there's so many reasons why the Nigerian stock market is looking like a SpaceX shuttle. The market has been compressed for so long, been depressed. It's been caged, and you look at the index from different markets. The market was definitely cheap, and coming with the reforms, we saw increased sales buying from Nigerian chessmen. You recall that it increased buying pressure in 2023 that followed, and many of these top guys like Academica, they also had exposure in key sectors. So definitely these stocks really held on, and we're not seeing FPIs coming on board, despite the fact that we have a ratio of for every 10 investors in the Nigerian stock market, 8 is domestic, 2 foreigners. So it's been all scale, and I think listeners should also be careful that this is not a validation that says that all is going well for the Nigerian economy. The Nigerian economy and the stock market has been deteriorated for a long while, and the reason is not far-fetched. Like I mentioned, the Nigerian stock market has been compressed for a very long time, and the fundamentals have shown that we still have very quality stocks like GT, for example. You look at the fact that Morgan Stanley has a position in GT. This is a tier one American bank, and you look at insiders position in this Presco is basically a foreign owned stock. You see interest. So despite the fact that we saw businesses delisting, we saw increased buy, and we saw companies also looking inward. MTN, after the embarrassing FX exchange losses they had, and the fact that they saw loss in earnings, they've been able to recover, and they're looking inward. Banks have also prepaid debts owed to telcos. Telcos are also expanding. We're talking about data center, that definitely will increase revenue. Look at the oil palm sector. What is happening in Edo State? Edo has the most valuable oil palm companies in Nigeria, Okumu and then Presco. And I think the policies Obaseki have not been taken for granted. I think investors are rewarding that. You also look at the fact that Nigerian companies now, based on results now, I think that's bottom, because in 2023, it seems like everything was just losses. And in 2024, we saw banks hitting the 1 trillion net income, Zenith 1.03, GT 1 trillion. So, Kalu, I think it's been fanfare for the Nigerian stock. And surprisingly, you see the social upticks that has increased. If you check Google Trend, the increased social media participation is at an all-time high, and the reason is not far-fetched. Listeners, viewers, followers are seeing what is happening and seeing returns investors are getting. In 2026, the worst performing in 2023, the worst performing stock lost only a fifth of its value. It was looking like all green, like the Nigerian flag. In 2024, a replica. 2025, it seems like it's going to boom. So, Carl, I think it's really a market where even the stupid man make money.
All right, the market where everyone makes money. Looking at the numbers for you, oil and gas in Nigeria seems to be down 9%, i.e. the index. If you look at the index for oil and gas, it seems to be down. Banking seems to be up about 19%. The biggest mover in Nigerian stock market are the ethical funds, Lotus. The guys buying the non-bank, the non-interest-based stock. So essentially, in the Nigerian stock market, if you are exposed to stocks that are not driven by returns on the interest spectrum, if I can use that word, seem to do more in terms of returns. So the Dangote cement is down.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that. So let me explain that to you. So you look at Dangote cement, for example. Dangote refinery, for example. When Dangote refinery began production, that really increased value for downstream sectors like Eternal, MRS. But now it seems Dangote is taking a pie to that stake, and investors seem to be looking at. It seems like these stocks have run for too long, so there seems to be cooling off. So if you look at where the stock is coming from, you will not be so surprised. Look at Better and things like that. So yes, understandable. But if you look at the markets, it depends on here. If you look at it from an half year, definitely you see even Access Bank having a red return, a negative return. But I'm looking at things from a longer span, and the reason is not far-fetched because investors have made so much money. Look at putting 100 million naira in Transcorp Hotel in 2023. You have almost 2 billion naira. That's really rare. That's really rare. You look at First Bank, GT. You look at Access. You put 10 million naira in 2023. You have gotten at least 15 million. That's rare. And there were pullbacks. I'm not even talking about dividend. I'm not talking about bonuses. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think what people need to understand is where the stocks are coming from and why the stocks trigger. Now, ETFs don't really work for Nigeria. I try to mention to Nigerians that see how do rich people sell, because for Nigeria this year sold 6 billion worth of Aredel Energy, and if people compare that Aredel Energy is not a liquid stock. So how did they do that? So it's either you use a traditional broker that really understand, that can really create liquidity for your needs, or if you know you're an heavyweight, definitely OTC transactions. And that's why I advise that you need to understand that Nigerian stocks are not US stocks. They have different ways they move. They have the ecosystem is more different. The way the market opens, the way the market closes. The market opens between 10 o'clock to 220, 230, I think 220 or 230. But the best time to sell or the best time to buy usually is during the 2 o'clock hour, because at that time liquidity is high and those guys are the flow mirror. So you need to understand the fundamentals of stock, and that's why I said it's always good to have a gentleman relationship with your investment bank or your stockbroking firm. These things you don't get these things on the streets, or you don't get these things by textbook, So it's always good to understand that stocks have different fundamentals. European stocks also, there are European stocks that I find very difficult to sell sometimes, and this is even for everyone's sake. So you also need to understand that not everywhere is like America. America is the bloodline of financial market, so you can't get the kind of certifications they have. So you need to understand what you're going into, why you're going into. Nigerian stocks, it's in a cycle phase. Is it going to keep going like that? Honestly, I can't tell. But one of the things I'm seeing is that this year, FPIs took over when there was exhaustion, because I felt the market should correct. But between February to June, I saw increased inflows from FPIs, and that's really why I saw stocks like Nestle increasing. Nigerian brewery stocks also massive return. So it's been like that. So Carl, I just wanted to add that to the context.
Okay, so question for you. We know in the US we like to talk about ETFs because the market is so broad, so deep, so sophisticated that it's really difficult to find the individual trees in that forest. In Nigeria, is it preferable to go to the individual tree, or should we also go to the ETFs? Because the ETF market in Nigeria, not a lot of volume. Like I can mention 5 stocks on my hand that every Nigerian should own, right? I can't do that for the US. So in your view, is it preferable to go individual in the market in Nigeria or go via ETF? What would you say?
It depends on like I said, it depends on your liquidity, it depends on your goal, and it depends on your broker. So, for example, I use one of the best brokers in the land, and I own ETFs. I've not had problem selling ETFs, to be honest with you. But a lot of people have problems selling ETFs. So sometimes I try to speak with my broker and they tell you that, these are some of the advantages of using our services. So you have to figure that out yourself. I'm not here to sell any broker for you. But I think one of the key ways of tapping to Nigeria market is looking at the index. There are so many indexes that are listed. You just need to look at like Stampic, for example. These are the everywhere. 35 has their own. Then you look at preferably for those that are just starting, new young Nigerians that really want to understand market, I say start with banking stocks. Why? Banking stocks are the most efficient stocks, most liquid, most relatable. If you have 500 million, you can sell 500 million. If you have 1 billion, you can sell 1 billion. There is no, sometimes when people talk about the liquidity of the stock, I feel it's over exaggerated, because the true sense is that if you really have when I want to sell a stock that is fairly liquid, what I do sometimes, you can beat them in tranches, or you can sell it lower than the market price. So there are different strategies. You understand how to read the order. So the Nigerian stock market has its own intricacy, but the advantages Nigerian stocks have over the US stock market is this. First, the entry level. Every Nigerian that, with 5,000 naira, for example, you can buy a couple of stocks. In US, it's going to be much more complicated. Then the cost of entry, you don't need to pay foreign exchange transaction. The fees are cheaper. That's an advantage, because when you're investing, you also need to look at transaction fees. It eats into your margin. It's a very important criteria. Then you also look at the understanding. An average Nigerian understands MTN, an average Nigerian understands GT, an average Nigerian understands FCMB, an average Nigerian understands StarMM, an average Nigerian doesn't understand Tesla, an average Nigerian doesn't understand Kuka. Despite the fact these are global companies. So you also need to understand the local context of the business you're in. Then when you make mistakes, the Nigerian stock market is much easier to correct. The US stock market is not like that. It's not like that. Especially if you're not a liquid person, the stock can fall 40, 30, though they have a circuit breaker where trading might be suspended, but you need to look at those limitations. Very, very important. So I think in those sense, it all boils down to your capacity, your intellectuality, your broker. And I've also said that you don't use one broker. Many of you guys don't use one bank account. So why is just taking to one account? It's always good to have other options. Okay. For example, I use 5 stock brokers because some of them I use them for research, some of them I just use them for certain stocks. And the reason is because certain times market prices vary.
Okay.
Sometimes I think average opportunities happen. So you just need to weigh into all those things.
Okay, let's talk about fixed income because we've done equities, Nigeria, US. We've given probably a few clues where they can start to look at instead of even want to do an investment. Right? Let's come to fixed income, which is like the fixed deposits, bonds, and all that. The US market, in terms of their fixed return, short term is doing better than long term, which is a reflection of people's fears about the recession uncertainty. So if you go to the US today and you want to do a fixed deposit for say 4 months or 3 months, you get more than if you do an investment for say 1 year. So they have a negative yield curve and all that. Rates are still, as you know, about 4 to 4.5. The Fed has refused to cut down rates because they say that Trump has done tariffs, so they want to wait and see before they bring down rates. Just to tie this into Nigeria, if the US Federal Reserve keeps rates at 4%, it's bad for the Naira. Why? Because I can buy dollar and make 4%. Why should I buy Naira and make 27%, even if it's in Naira? I make enough money in the US at 4%. Inflation is 2%, so I'm making 2% real returns in the US. Why take the risk to come to Nigeria? So if the Fed reduces interest rates in America to say 1 or 2%, then the Naira will get stronger because more folks will then seek out not just Naira, emerging currencies, because those currencies can pay you a higher rate of return than what the dollar is paying, which is a 4%, all that. So then, what's your sense in terms of fixed deposit returns? You can talk Nigeria and the US. Is this an asset class I should look at? We've seen dividend yields in Nigerian stock markets. It's still more beating inflation. What's your sense in terms of the fixed return?
For those that are already in their middle age, for people like me, for those that are already for related, I think it's an asset class that you should increasingly get exposed to. Because the ability for you to recover is diminishing, and that's useful example. So, and even if you are very young, it's an asset class you should also understand because we use them for different reasons. Basically, cash flow is safer than, especially if you are investing in government security, safer. But this is the problem we have. The world is involved with debt. The US debt. You could see the drama between Elon Musk and President Trump, and the reason is because of debt concerns, and you look at the US debt record at 37 trillion, bigger than GDP. You look at the world debt is 3 times higher than the global GDP. You also look at Nigeria's debt to GDP. Also, it's becoming worse. On despite to be fair, because of the devaluation of that has also increased. And so definitely it looks like we are going to 50% to our GDP. And that looks very scary for a country like Nigeria. So I think it's a global problem naturally that we have a debt crisis, and it seems like we don't even know when it's going to end. And my bet is that if the debt crisis break, every market will fall because stable coins, where we talk about the stability of, is they derive their stability from the US Treasury market. So if anything happens to the US Treasury market, as the stable coin is a factor, guess what will happen to the crypto market? Guess what will happen to banks? That's where banks get their liquidity, that's where banks save. So it's a long chain reaction. But for me, I think what you just need to look at is the US is definitely the number one currency. Forget the credit rating that the US was downgraded. Yeah, I know it has an impact. It increased the cost of borrowing to a certain degree, but if you look at it, the US is still the most liquid, efficient, reliable market. And if there's a global recession, I feel that the US debt market will definitely increase. That's from perspective. But I'm looking at the fact that the currency weakening. So that's why I increased my position to US. So what I did in the UK, for example, I jumped into GLITs. That's the kind of bonds in the UK market. And interestingly, I think I've done pretty much. If I look at just half year ago, I'm up in double figures, which is really astounding because the currency appreciation and the return. So yeah, it's good. But from a longer perspective, I think it's a market. The US market is a market you don't want to ignore. The US Treasury market, so you could get exposed. There are bond ETFs that just like others that you could really tap into, where you could get coupons and things like that. And it's also a class that at the longer term you get a return. But coming back home, I think Stanbic Bank has done a credible job with the Blue Nest launch. This is one of the things I like about Stanbic IBTC is that they've been able to focus on their strength and they're doing it very well. If you look at the money market, for example, they command more than 1.3 trillion naira in deposit, more than total. If you look at the arrival, add it and put another 300 trillion, it's not close to that. So I think they've done a pretty job in controlling the market space. And with the Blue Nest, you can really access treasury bills. You can access different kind of Nigerian directly from your phone. It's something I can do from the space of time. So yeah, for people that are really looking for conservative return, because I know a lot of middle class professionals are not really interested in equities and stuff. Yes, you could look at that. For those that also want to invest in dollar, yeah, if you have a US visa or you don't want to go through, for example, you have a US visa, but I think it makes a lot of sense to directly have a Fidelity account, to have a TD Ameritrade. It really makes it because the cost premium and the opportunities endless. You can also use that, for example, for visa application, for buying properties, your collateral and things like that. Then you build a portfolio. But it all boils down to your end goal. For me, I use the debt market for cash flow and a form of security because I'm running a business on the other side too. I'm getting home. I'm looking at my future and retirement. I can't depend on that for my pension. The Naira retirement, you look at the devaluation that it really hurts everybody. So you have to have your end goal, and that's why I said that you really need to design your portfolio in such a way that all these asset classes are involved. The bond index fund very important. The bond market is very important for those that really look for cash flow. And I think for my outlook for the bond market is that we need to watch out because if the drama between Trump and Jerome Powell heats up, and we see you could get it back close to 5%, I think the market will crack because this is where that market is much more important than this equity market, much more. The US government rather save the treasury market than the stock market. So we need to be aware, we need to watch it. And we also need to understand that when bonds are up, yields are down. When yields are up, bond prices, they have a converse relationship. So these are simple things you need to look at when you want to invest in that market.
So let me tell you, in Nigeria today, as a Nigerian living in Nigeria today, I have two official options. I can buy dollars for the Nigerian government. I can give the Nigerian government dollars, and the Nigerian government pays me dividend in dollars, which are the dollar bonds that has just been issued, right? So that's about 9% return, I believe, locally issued Nigeria. Yeah. And
let's be honest, that bond, retail didn't have access to it. It's just a super bond. That's why I don't talk about Sukuk and diaspora.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason we don't talk about them is not because they don't make sense. It's because Jamie Nigeria cannot access them. This is Sukuk bond. I've been trying to access the bond from 3 different brokers. I've not gotten it, Carlo. The diaspora bond, I told him, maybe I got the information. I told my broker, book this certain because I was looking at what my US banks were paying me or my European banks were paying me was much less for US debt. So I looked at it, made a lot of sense to invest in US diaspora, Nigerian diaspora bond. But I didn't get it because the banks and pension for they adapt it. So yeah, it's the truth is that if you're not a Dangote or a very rich man, there are certain asset classes you will not get. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Because it doesn't make sense just knowing the names and not being able to touch them.
I understood. But the point I'm getting to is that that's the indicative rate. That's where they will draw the line and say, hey, in Nigeria, it's possible to get 9% if you lend the federal government dollars. Also, we have Eurobonds. Eurobonds are a bit, you can get it if you're a retail guy. Maybe you need to have some money, but you can get Eurobond. Eurobonds, I'm looking at the yields today. The yield for 2051 year, the one ending 2051, about 10%. So the yield at issue, 8%. So the price has crashed. So the yields have become more attractive in Nigeria. It's gone up to 10%. Compare this with 4% in the US. Where I'm going to is that if you had $1 billion, or let's make it easy, if you had $1 million, would you buy a Nigerian bond paying you 20%? Or would you buy a dollar bond that you're going to get about 10% from? Both in Nigeria, of course.
Okay, good question. So, kind of question I asked. What's the objective? What's the objective?
Yeah, he's doing fixed income. He's looking for income.
I know, but what's the object? Oh, he's looking for income. Okay, he's looking for income. So for me, let's do this math, for example. The dollar has been stable for a while. So last year, for example, because I went to the Nigerian bonds and I went to the in Nigeria, and the two. Now the returns I'm getting from my Naira bonds is twice. And the reason why is because Naira appreciated February 2024 when it was 1.9. Now the Naira is 1.5. So if you do the math, with my bond calculation, at least I'm 55% up. Now my US dollar this thing is just in dollars, just getting last time I checked has one drop to about 6.2%. So you see, but this is the catch. Definitely if you are looking at 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's safer to be on the US dollar because things can go crazy with Naira, right? But you also look at it that what's the likelihood of Naira dropping to 3,000? What's the likelihood of Naira dropping to 2,000? Because where you have to now look at currency risk. That's where your brain and your investment bankers can do that for you. They have their own softwares and modern criteria as they look at those things. So it's not just a vanilla strategy; it's a strategy of what you're doing. You can use your Naira fixed income space because the Nigerian Naira, for example, debt market in the last far outdid the US dollar, but on a longer spectrum, that's another question entirely. So for me, I think if he's looking for something between 5 to 50 years, a lifetime thing, I think okay, stick with the US dollar. But if you're looking at, if you know that you have a solid investment bank and you really want to make good opportunities the Naira debt market is very good. The money market is a good example. You get in the market. All you just need to do is wait for 30 days. Because if you withdraw within 30 days, you get a penalty, right, for your return. And you pay a management fee of 1.5%, but you're getting 22% a year. So let's say the last starts is drama. You have some notice. So you can definitely change your Naira back to whatever currency you want to do. So okay. That's why I said that it all depends on your strategy, your outlook, and the position you are in the market.
Okay, so I hear you. Let's do this final poll that folks to speak of. We've got some folks that have been trying to speak for quite a while. So we've got Prince and EKFH. Let's just ask you two quick questions. One, Genius Act has been passed. So the US is going towards this stable coin idea where they want to have a digital dollar to complement the US paper dollar to sort of stamp their authority on being a reserve currency and all that. They want to do that, right? That's one side. Number two, I don't know if we can talk about it in this space, or we should leave that for that space. I really want to talk about this, the Naira bank, but the Naira card issue. I want to go try my card today. I will go try it today. I'll go to an ATM and see if I can withdraw $1. So let's talk about, yeah.
I tried with 3 banks. Those banks that just have 3 positions in those banks. Only one worked.
At the ATM, what do you try to do? Just okay.
I tried at the PNB Paribas ATM. That's one of the perfect for people that know PNB Paribas. It's one of the most selective ATMs in Europe. It went through, but I first tried to do 200 euros. I saw that this time okay, I said let me do 50. It went. Then I tried the others. Though one, my card has expired, so it swallowed my card, because that card, they have a 3-year expiry date, so it expired. So it's good to also check the expiry date of your card. So that's on the other side. Then, we mentioned the stable Genius Act. Yes, definitely it's a positive for the space, and that's one of the reasons why Seku has done 6x in 5 weeks. Look at the fact that also Coinbase has a record high because Coinbase is one of the major player in USDC ecosystem, and also for us that are staying in Europe, you can't transact with USDT. Balance has disabled it, so we only use USDC as the major stable coin. So that is positive. But it's very tricky because if you look at the fact that Donald Trump crypto presidency. It's very tricky to look at it for the next 5 years. We don't know how things will go. But definitely, I think since it's going to be low, it's going to be very difficult. Either it's going to be edited. I think it's a positive win for the crypto space. It's going to bring in liquidity. But I think banks, because I heard Bank of America and some other banks are trying to create, because people coin issuers are already eating the pie of these banks, and they're definitely unhappy about it. So they're trying to create all a platform where, or a medium similar to these stable coins where they can also rival. So I think it's very competitive, but definitely it's going to create a division. We're seeing a lot of stable coin companies coming already. But back home in Nigeria, regulations is quite slow. Even though we have a clear act about how these things will be. And the reason it starts out Nigerians are just like the British. We take things our way. So we're not like the Americans where we are technology first. So we take things our way. So I think from policy perspective, I think we need to be patient on those things. But yes, a welcome development that the world's powerful economy has really brought that to the limelight.
All right, perfect. So I'll go try my ATM and see what happens. Probably do a tweet on it on Monday and see if it works. Let's get Prince. Prince, I appreciate you waiting so long to speak. Really, we'll just go through the market with Olumide. Prince, you have a question? Prince Wabo is there.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, Olumide, for everything you've shared. I think I've actually been taking note of quite a number of things. Although I'm more on the Nigerian market and trade more on the T-bills and the fixed income, right? So, but what I want to do, what I'm trying to do is, I also want you to shed more light, because we have about 482 people here, right? And if you take out 82 people, it's shock you that 400 people have never had access to T-bills. Some of them do not even know how it works. Some of them don't even know what it means. Yes, people just get to hear T-bills, fixed income. A lot of people don't even know where to even purchase T-bills from. So I also wanted to speak on that. And that's another thing, especially for Nigerians here. We really do not get much of this finance education down here, right? Most times people speak, when I talk about T-bills, and they were like, what do you mean by T-bills? And I'm like, you could just walk into your bank, speak to an account manager, and you could get that done. And it sounds so foreign. So yes, everybody's listening to this, but I'll tell you that so many people right here really do not have knowledge about even little things, the basic fixed income, T-bills, mutual funds, Stanbic IBTC, the offers they give. I have quite a number of people who have serious liquid funds in their bank, and they just keep it down there. They really do not even have an idea that you could.
There's something called T-bills.
Yeah. Yes. Most of them do not even know what these things mean. And when you are trying to talk to them, and they are like, "Oh, this is not some MMM thing." And it sounds very funny. It sounds. And sometimes I'm trying to like, is it that you guys don't have an account officer? And one thing I've also noticed in Nigeria is that the bankers really do not even get to educate you on basic investment knowledge. Like they don't even get to tell you anything. They just open this account, flood you with money, and if you have there are Nigerians that have up to, I think I know a lot of people who have liquid cash. They don't have an idea what fixed income is, and when I speak to them, it seems as though I'm trying to like take out this money from their hands and do something with it. I'm like, no, walk into a bank, walk into UBA. I did my first T-bills when I was like 19 with 1 million naira. And then when I could speak to some of my mates, I was like, I did T-bills, and they were like, what is T-bills? Till date, so many of them still really do not have an idea what fixed income is and T-bills is.
Okay. There's a simple answer to that. Olumide will give you the simple answer. Olumide, what do you think Nigeria to know about T-bills? It's a very simple answer.
Yeah, I think it's misunderstandable. You know, financial literacy penetration in Nigeria is quite low. Or like the average American, they have significant position in there. But the treasury bills, basically, they're just short-term securities, you know. And rather than getting coupons, they are sold at discount, you know. And they're backed by the government, when it comes through the CBN. So it's very liquid, very safe, and in fact, if you have a position in the mutual money market, you definitely have exposure in it. For mutual funds, you know, definitely is a kind of fund where you have a fund manager. You know, for many people, they don't have this application or understanding on this market, so you can definitely tap into these funds which mutual funds, and it basically is a passive way of investing. And you can also look at the returns. For example, if you want to invest in this fund, mutual fund, you just need to check the performance of that and look at it. Okay, last 5 years, these guys have been decent, so people have beaten them. Or you go to the ETFs, which are traded on the exchange, which also seems to be more active than the mutual funds. I look good at a good example. The Stanbic IBC 30, for example. I'll just give you a typical example. For those that don't want to track, GT, Access, Fidelity, all the top 30 companies listed on we call it the blue chip index because it's made up of the top 30 Nigerian companies listed, the Stanbic IBC 30. So it's a good way of getting position into that and also tapping into the market. The money market, for example, short-term securities, bonds, cash, you can invest in that. Then if you are looking at outside Nigeria, it's much more complicated. We have bills, we have notes, we have bonds. But the difference is just the years. Bills, less than a year, bonds, notes between 2 years and I think between 2 to 10 years. Then you look at bonds, 10-year bonds, in Treasury, US Treasury bonds, are talking about longer years, longer years. But Nigeria, we don't have bills. So, yeah, it's good to look at all those things. But I'll give you 2 simple advice just because of time. See, relating with a traditional investment bank, I spoke about Stanbic, Milestone, Affivest, Investment One. The reason why I spoke about these platforms is for simple reasons. They have in-house research guys that are very smart. It's just that many of these guys don't talk or come on social media. And I tell you for free, knowledge does not work in isolation. You need to interact with it. So these guys can really make things happen for your life. They can even change your story. So just imagine me that I really have an opportunity to mix with many of these guys. It makes me look like about this thing because I get information on a daily basis. I get solid information because these guys, what they do for a living is just look at the market and lies and just. So you first have to build a relationship. If you're a poor man, you can't get the kind of services Femetola is getting. You have to start from it. You have to first build. You have to be decent. You don't throw them. You don't insult them. You know how to talk. You know how to communicate. You know how to message. Very key. I think people need to also understand that because you want to invest your money doesn't mean these guys are your houseboy or these guys are. You have to come from a place of reputation, solid reputation. If you don't have solid reputation, sorry to say, you can't really make much in this market, except you come from a family of means where your name has spoken for you. But if you don't have a name and you don't have a reputation, it's going to be very difficult for you to meet with these guys. So many Nigerians have a problem of releasing people because you think you can just insult people because things don't work well. It doesn't work well with investment. You also need to understand that things work with patience. You have to be patient because they are saying returns we are talking about. This thing did not happen. Carl has been in this space for many years. He has invested for many years. So these things take a compound organic. So these are very important. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the key thing is this, right? Treasury bills are only 50 million naira. So if you don't have money, you can't do treasury bills. Money in quotes. So it's many people, Prince, don't have 50 million to invest. They have maybe 10, 15, 25 and all that. So the way to do this treasury bill game is to get together and then invest in bulk. So if 2 or 3 of you come together, then you can then play that. Or they call it Umo market or trip. It has a high minimum base. The savings bond starts from 5,000 naira. So a lot more people can do that. It's also the same federal government, but treasury bills have a higher minimum base that you can invest, and that's how you want to play it. How long you want to invest and your minimum amount that you want to invest determine the kind of federal security and why federal security is the safest investment in Nigeria. So if you don't want any story, you want to just make income, you're a retiree, you want to fund something that on the guarantee. Maybe you have, one thing people don't know is how to use fixed income. You don't use fixed income just to save. Let's assume you want to educate kids through school. You can walk to the answer. You can say the kids need $1 million naira every year, right? If you go to your bank and you say, how much should I give you today? You will pay me $1 million naira every year. Just an example. They'll say, okay, give us maybe 10 million. I will give you 1 million every year. So you simply put that money in a treasury bill, and the bank will pay you that school fee. So you've locked in that school fees, and of course the principal is there. You can use that principal to do other things, i.e., it's locked in funds, but you're getting the income to do that specific thing. And at the end of the school fees, you can take a principal and go in. So fixed income is not just income. You have to look very expand how you view fixed income, right? So Prince, hope that answers your question. Perfect. Excellent. Let's get Sire Matthew. Sire Matthew got the floor. Go ahead. How you doing? Sire, or let's get COS, Cosmos Exchange. Where's Sire? Get ready. Cosmos, go ahead, please.
Okay, good evening, Kanu. Good evening, Olamide. Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Actually, I'm following you over the years. Kalu and Olamide, you people are doing a great job in the financial industry. Though I started investing, I think, 3 years now. With the knowledge, I'm always active on Kalu's page, Olumide's page, 247, because the information I'm getting there is helping me to do some research, and also I got early when Facebook was trading at $99, I think, on 2022, holding till now. I can see the returns because of the knowledge I'm getting on you people's pages, giving me a lot of information and also how to do research in the financial market. I think it's a great thing following the analysts and putting some research, doing some things about. I heard when Mr. Kalu said about the fundamentals about defense, AI, artificial intelligence, and also the because all these things relate to retailer psychology and investor psychology, how when the market is at a peak, and also when the retailer psychology is at a euphoria stage. So I'm so happy about what you people are doing in the financial market is encouraging, and also I'm a testimony because the informations Olumide drop daily on his page, and also Kalu, what you are doing in this financial market, I think is helping a lot of Nigerians and also helping a lot of researchers to know the basics and also the fundamentals that will help them to position in the financial market. Also, I'm thinking that because I always pay for knowledge, thinking for if you will help young Nigerians, maybe organizing a space. Okay, I'm checking your page. I've seen the Amazon. I can buy it. It will help me also. So the information you people are bringing into the financial market is helping. So I think the book you have in your page you pinned is encouraging, but if you can still more bring out maybe mentorship, I think a lot of Nigerians are eager to pay for, and me, I'm eager to pay for knowledge. So I think it will help a lot of people who cannot come up maybe for boot camps and a lot of things for them to position in the financial market. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Olumide. Your page is encouraging me, Mr. Kalu. Your page is encouraging because I'm a testimony of someone entering Facebook when Facebook was trading at $99 on 2022 till now. Facebook is trading at 700, and I think I got some because of the fundamentals and also retailer psychology. I equipped by what you people have tutoring in the space, hosting in the space. I was on Olumide's space. I think maybe last 2 weeks. There is a space. There is a lot of information. So I'm so happy to get you people's page and following since 2022 and up till now. My life has transformed because the knowledge and also the instincts I'm putting into the market with what people are analyzing in the market is helping me as a mechanical engineer finishing this year, and also helping me in my financial life, and also helping me to build a financial community about 30,000 people learning about the markets and understanding the fundamentals and also the metrics of retailer psychology and the wealth psychology in the financial market. So I'm so glued on people's page, you and Olumide. Thank you for what you do in the society. The Nigerians are happy. Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. Thanks so much. I appreciate those comments. So, yeah, I remember Facebook. I remember a long time ago I did a tweet that Facebook had no competition. I think that was when Facebook shares were falling. I can't tell to buy or sell, but I just said Facebook has no competition. This is a company with Instagram and WhatsApp. In the developing world, everyone uses WhatsApp or Instagram. They do rap videos. Hey, she's on my gram. How many products are on rap videos? So when you see that kind of company that is cultural, that transcends just the quantitative and the qualitative. It's now cultural. You want to give it a look. Now they're going into AI big time. I think Meta is now an AI company. If AI blows up, Meta is going to blow up. I remember when the stock was down, it was nearly the hundreds and all that, So buying stock is like, someone said it's a beauty contest at first, but it becomes a weighing contest. The point is not to argue. The point is not to say what you think. It's to say, what do you think other people will do? That's how you buy stocks. It's not what you think is good, right? It's what do you think other people will do. If you don't like Indomie, but everyone in Nigeria eats Indomie, that means you want to buy that stock because there are 200 million people eating Indomie. It doesn't matter if you think Indomie is unhealthy. That's a different conversation. But if 200 million people are buying Indomie for their kids, then that's a brand you want to be exposed to. Either you want to buy the flour company supplying Indomie, or the packaging company, or the bank that keeps their money, but you want to look for how you can latch yourself into that company. That's what the invest is all about. It's not to say you want to look at you look at the market, sit on a bench, and say, where are people? Which restaurants are people going to? It doesn't matter if you like the food. Which restaurant are people going to? If people are going, that's what I'm telling you guys. Where is the money going to go to in the next 5 years? Defense, energy, AI, rare earths, nuclear. Focus on those. And
another thing is that, I feel that people need to understand that there's a compound effect with knowledge and information. Over the years, I recall that when I had limited funds and I just focused on Nigerian stocks, then there was nothing like subscription. So I got addicted to New York Times, Fortune, Wall Street Journal, and Bloomberg. And I was so passionate about these businesses that I was thinking like an investor, even though I had zero funds in them. So when I had the opportunity to start earning FX and got position, and I already acquired some knowledge in the Nigerian stock market, it was easy for me to invest in this thing. I can never forget Google or Meta in my life because these are one of the stocks that made me financially and intellectually, because I got them early and I understood the personality, not just that's why I said that, let's leave this egoism behind in finance where we talk about EPS, price to book. Yes, it matters, but it doesn't go so much because, markets have a social fundamental where behavioral finance play a key role. You need to understand many things that are not cohesive with financial data actually. So, for example, how do you understand the personality of Max Zuckerberg? How do you understand the personality of Sergey Brin? So these are things, you get these things through acquiring knowledge, following these guys, following their businesses, knowing their personality. So when I saw how this guy built his company from the start, I started investing, and unfortunately for me, I was already down because IPO price, he fell 50% down, but I was still optimistic and I increased. And the story is history. So yeah, Meta record high, look at Google also. So I think it's always going to be like that for America because opportunities are always going to come up. But for those that are listening, like what Carla just said, I think there's more to it than meets the eye. Even if Carla gives the expo, the question is, how do you converse yourself with this information? Many of you guys stay with jokes. Many of you guys stay with just trolling. Many of you guys are just coming. So it has a problem with your brain and your thinking. So because your rationale to invest in will give you what you know, what you expect. So if your information is not in line with what you know or what, it becomes confusing. So that's why I always tell people that you are young. I think we should make your brain spongy and attractive. Most important thing. When you have the money, you can now start playing with jokes or play with other things. But for now, we focus on what really matters more. And that's why I said that you don't just listen to Carlos Gaines or what we just saw on the space. You really need to spend time with financial information. Very, very important. Thank you, Carlos.
All right, let's get Obina. Is Obina still there? Had his hand up. Abba, go for it, Abba. Abba.
Good evening, Carlo.
How you doing?
Good evening, Olumide. Good evening, everybody in the space. I'm all right. Olumide, thank you for the information shared so far. I got into stock as early as 2004, 2005, but got burnt in 2008. I lost everything, but trying to come back again. I'm trying to register online on the CSCS website, but I can't at the moment. I spoke with my stockbroker, Tower Asset, the ones I use in Abuja, and they said I have to come down to Nigeria for me to do my biometrics. I don't know if that is true. Do I have to go down to biometrics for me to be able to buy some stock at the moment?
No, not at all. So, for example, if you use these traditional brokers, for example, you use Stanley Cardinal Stone, CSL Investments, One, Afrivest, Bamboo, right? There's so many. So I'm just trying to mention an example. But
okay, sorry to cut you. But am I allowed to have more than two? What's it called? CH.
Yes, I have like
house number.
Account. Yes, it happens. Yes, the only thing is just that it's important for you to know those numbers in case you have a problem where you want to harmonize. Or yes, you can. So, asking for your biometric, you have a BVN, right? You have an NIN. So what you do, for example, if you can, some of the brokers, you don't even need to visit them or even talk to them. You just fill in online, except you are opening with some. I did an example. There's a broker, for example, that one, they can ever ask for a marriage certificate. I'm just telling you the honest truth. They will ask you things, those ones, because they've been the pioneer, they've been going on, but you didn't mention their name, so it's not them. So for others, I think it's more
Tower Asset Management, the ones I use. These are my guys for broker.
You can look for other options that will really definitely give you those.
I mean, there are many online. Just that, go to just Nigerian stockbrokers. There's Coronation, there's CSL, there's Arthur Stevens. That they all have online. Meristem, they're all online, and they will show you how to log in online. You can even transfer your CS from one broker to another broker. It's just an online PO box. So it's not exclusive. You can have many PO box in Ikeja, in Oshodi, in Apapa. You can have PO box in any place you want. Then your mails can go to any place you want. You can now drive to all those PO box and pick up your mails. That's just what CSCS is. But Oglumde is saying you can also have a consolidated, so you don't have to look for dividends paid to the Apapa, dividends paid to Oshodi. You know, that's the whole idea. But you can have as many as you want. But why have many when you can have one and get your dividends and stocks deposited in just one? So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Olumide. Thank you, Carlo.
You're very
That's
welcome.
all for now.
All right, excellent. Obina, hop in here real quick. Obina, what's in your mind?
Okay, my name is Obina, and I really want to thank you guys for hosting this. I've been following Carlo. Currently, I just follow Olumide because I want to be getting some information from them. I'm really grateful. Then, on the other hand, I want to throw more light on T-bill because I played some part in that while I was back in Nigeria. I worked with the bank before I left. So I must tell people this. The ordinary commercial bank don't want you to invest in T-bills. The reason being that when customers on their own invest in T-bills, it reduces bank's liquidity. Now, when it reduces bank liquidity, bank on their own cannot go to T-bills with huge amount of money. Banks on their own prefer you invest in their own local investment packages, which pays you about 4% interest rate, maximum of 5.5. But here it pays you as high as 12%, as high as 13% per annum. And sometimes they even pay you upfront your profit. So what I would advise Nigerians listening is this. When you go to the banks and meet your account managers, insist. Sometimes you even have to threaten. If you do not give me the window time for the T-bills, or if you don't invest my money, I have to move to another bank. Because I can remember back then when I allowed some of my customers, which are huge players in the market, who as high as up to 100 million at a time, 50 million at a time, my area managers became mad. But why did you allow that customer to move his money? Or like, okay, it is his money, he has the right to move it to wherever he wants to move it, whether for T-bills or for anything. But they weren't happy about that. So when you are back in Nigeria and want to invest in T-bills, Be open, be plain. If you have to shout it, shout it. One of their first attempts is to discourage you, right? That we have other alternatives, which will keep your money with the commercial bank. But when you invest in T-bills, your money goes straight to CBN, which pays you upfront for interest rate, and a better interest rate more than the bank will pay you for whatever local investment package they have. That's just what I want to say. Thank you, guys.
Good job. Yeah, good job on that. So again, it's just going to be that cap, right? Like he said, it's just going to be that cap. If you have the money, they will do T-bills with you. So if you have all this, you guys go and watch football together. Get yourself together, get your money together, invest as one. They pay the returns, you share the money back out, right? So because T-bills have a cap, you just can't walk in with 5 million. I think they want more than that.
But can you think they don't have the capacity to invest in T-bills? They can have exposure in T-bills. Like I gave them example. A money market fund has exposure in T-bills.
That's true.
And T-bills is giving, let's say, 26%, 26%. Money market will give you 20, between 20-22%. So save yourself all the trouble. You just need to look at what has exposure or where you can cover. If you can go directly, fine. Or you can buy secondary market, fine. But there are other options if you don't have the block funds to invest directly.
Yeah, but just don't keep your money. I think the key point, just don't keep your money in the bank if you want to invest in just savings or checking account, right? You need to do really treasury management. If you don't need the money in a week, there are options to invest the money. That's, I think, what we're trying to say. And you can get the information. I mean, today the information is everywhere. Get information, pay your bank, and no, this money I'm keeping here, I want to earn interest on it. It's your money. So that's the message. Don't just leave your money lying fallow. Oxley Tech, hop right in here, sir. What's on your mind? Obina, thank you so much for that. Oxley, you've got the floor. Oxley going once, Oxley going twice. Shuaibu Benjamin, how are you doing, sir? Shuaibu Benjamin. Go ahead, sir. Shuaibu, go ahead.
All right. Thank you for all you do on this space. I've learned so much from you. Well, my question this evening is one doubt that I have. I run a business, and anytime I listen to you and Mr. Olumide, I always think I'm behind when it comes to investing in stocks. But my business is still growing, and I need more money. So the more I make, the more I have to invest in my business. Do you think I should be keeping something aside to start investing in stock? Because I feel I should grow my business to some extent before I begin to do that.
That's a great question. You know, you're asking a very, very important question. It's not about investing in stocks. It's about a retirement plan for a business owner. Let me put it this way. Most business owners believe, right, that they don't need a retirement plan because they are the CEO of a very, very good business that is paying them a salary. That's a huge risk that you're taking. What happens if you get injured tomorrow and you can no longer run that business? What happens to you? So what you want to do if you're a CEO is to create your own dedicated fund that can pay your pension and your disability even if you are not there. And also you can transfer that business from yourself to somebody else to run, not your children, somebody else to run as a manager and then pay your children a dividend. When you have a business, there should be a difference between the ownership and the management. In most Nigerian, African, and small businesses, we blur ownership and management. So when a company is doing very, very well and there's a CEO that runs the place, the owner is the manager. But as a company starts to scale, you have to remove ownership from management where possible and allow professional managers run the business whilst your family can retain ownership. So if you have a business today, how are you getting paid? Does the business pay you a salary? Does the business contribute to your retirement savings account or your 401k? That's where you want to start from, Shuaibu. So if you have a business today, are you contributing to the retirement savings account? If you are, perfect, because you are the boss, you can give yourselves contribution based on your basic housing and transport. That is separate from your business. If your business fails, nobody can come and touch that basic housing and transport. That's what you are going to retire on. So that whatever happens to that business, you have accumulated an asset base that's going to pay you funds to retire on. If the business goes out of fashion, either through cyclical change or through bankruptcy and all that, it doesn't affect your retirement savings account. So that question now, back to your question, yes, you open up the RSA, you don't buy the stocks in your name, you buy it in your RSA. Why? Because it's tax-free, right? Any funds you put in that RSA, you've reduced your own personal income taxes. So it's a win-win for you. You are accumulating assets that will later on, when you pay you back, especially if you do additional voluntary contributions to that fund. So that's how you want to do it. Invest through your RSA because it's tax deferred, right? You get that advantage. You also build up ownership separate from management. If tomorrow you want to transfer the funds to your kids, you simply sell them the shares of your business. The reason why people are wealthy today, why we're mentioning Meta and Bill Gates, is because of the concept of incorporation that allows you to do a transfer of ownership and get funds for it. So sure, that's what you want to do, right? If you don't have an RSA for your business, open one. If you want to buy the shares via that RSA by contributing to your retirement savings account and then buy those shares through there. Does that make sense, sir?
Yes, sir. Can I see ask another question?
Real quick.
All right. How do I go about opening the RSA?
Oh, don't let my friend Tunji Andrews hear you. That means you don't know Tunji Andrews. So what you want to do, just go online. I forget it. If you just either you go to a PFA, a pension fund administrator, or you use Tunji Andrews' firm, right? And they just enroll you. Once they enroll you, you just make your contributions to the PFA. That's all you need to do. So it's like you are buying shares, right? But you are buying shares through the vehicle of a retirement fund today. So you can say, I'm going to contribute. The law says 18%. Your company pays 10%, you pay 8%. That's tax off your income that you won't pay to Nigerian Revenue Fund. So just Google retirement savings account, PFAs, look for the one near to your house, walk in there. They will gladly welcome you. Yeah, if you send me a DM, I'll send to these people after you as well.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. Great. Let's get Film Boy 001. Film Boy, what's your mind? Film Boy. You guys want to stay near your mics. If you request to speak, stay near your mics. So when we want to call you, you can hop right in. Oxley Tech ready? Oxley Tech ready? Film Boy ready? No one ready. Oluwaseun Ajede _Ajede. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Kalu. Good evening, everyone. So, and also thank you, Olumide, for your great insights almost every day. Thank you. So for me, I'm actually really exposed to the US stocks market, just with little exposure or positions in the Nigerian stocks. So for me also, I value environment where institutions are strong, just like in the US and also in the UK. We recently saw the backlash between Trump and Elon Musk, and that doesn't really affect much of Tesla's position. We saw a fall, then also we saw a bounce back as well. Unlike in Nigeria, just imagine it having a backlash with Tinubu. Can just imagine what the DSS, the police, and the FCC would actually be doing up and down. So for me, for the Nigerian stock players, I think people should actually follow the big guys, like what the Todellas and the Elumelus are doing. And for me also, just to wrap up, overall, I think the Nigerian stock market has been really great and it actually outperformed inflation since 2024. I think, that's actually my take. Thank you.
Perfect. Oluwaseun, thanks so much. Appreciate that. Let's get Film Boy if he has a quick comment to make, and then we'll move on. Film Boy, second chance. All right, I want to move on. Ola, okay, Agunloye. How are you doing? Okay.
Okay, good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody.
You got the floor, sir. Go ahead. We've got Lumide here. We've got Kalu here. We've got other folks here. We're talking half-year review. We looked at U.S. stocks, Nigerian fixed income, U.S. fixed income. We even did crypto. Genius bill passed. What's your take? What are you looking at, sir?
Okay, I actually have a question this evening, sir.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Okay, so at the beginning of the Twitter space, we were talking about people having investment goals. So for someone that has a goal to, continue buying stocks of good companies in order to be generating income through dividends. And let's say you bought some stocks probably last year, 2 years ago, and they are doing fine, maybe 20%, 30%, some are even like maybe 100% returns. Do you still have to take profit, or do you keep buying so that so that the dividend you get over time continue to increase? Because at times you see people posting about take profit. You have not realized any profit until you have actually sold part of your shares and the likes. So I just want a kind of clarification, like if my goal is to grow my dividends, do I also have to be taking profits when my shares are giving me returns?
I mean, you've answered the question already by your question, right? It's already answered. So there are going to be two sort of investors in the world. There are going to be the guys that are doing that, who are called value investors, long-term minded investors that are going to buy an asset at a price below its intrinsic value. In English, they are buying a good stock at a cheap price. When those kind of guys are buying, they want to buy and hold and reap the benefits of that company becoming profitable. So they're not interested in selling tomorrow. A good example is Mr. Warren Buffett. He will buy Coca-Cola, he buys Value Jet when it's really undervalued, and he holds it forever. He doesn't sell. He just sold his Apple, but he bought Apple. The reason why he sold that, it has become too large in the portfolio. So those sort of people are not interested in selling. They make a lot of dividends. They use dividends and then they buy more stocks and diversify, right? The other investors are what you call maybe your traders, where they are buying a stock today, they have an exit percentage or exit price. Maybe they buy, once they make 60%, they exit. They don't really care about the company, but they care about the ROI, the return. So they are more transactional based. So for them, they are going after the realized profit, which is they put a naira in, the stock has gone up to 5 naira. Their profit is still 1 naira. Until they sell, they haven't realized that 5 naira. Which is what you're saying. So it depends on where you are. From your question, you are more of the value guy. If you're the value guy, why are you selling? But if you are a trader, why are you holding? If you're a trader and the stock has gone up by 60%, then you might ask the question, why are you holding? But he's a trader. If you're a value guy, then why are you selling? So don't mix two of them up. You can have two funds, one for trading, one for long term. And your trading stock, you can buy and sell. You can even transfer from your long-term stock to your trading stock and sell it. You can do that. But try to stay within your strategy. That's the point you made at the very, very beginning. Stay within your strategy. So if you were a long-term guy, and when Trump did the tariffs and the whole market crashed, you would have bought more because you are seeing an opportunity to buy a good stock at a cheap price. If you were a trader, you would have sold because you're not interested in carrying losses. You want to sell, keep your cash, and then try to buy and do scalping. So two different strategies. None is correct. It's just based on keeping in tune with your strategy. Don't mix them. Don't say you're a trader and then you are selling. Don't say you are a long-term guy and then you are also buying or selling. So that's just the answer for you, sir. I know that makes sense for you. Ola, you good?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot. Okay. Let's get Nian. Nia, you got Nian. Ni Cloty. Ni.
Yeah.
Oh, hi. How you doing? Welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. I must say I'm impressed. My name is, you don't really have this access to it where finance and stock market people come around to educate young people like that.
Yeah, well, brother, invite us to Ghana socially. We'll come and do it. I'll bring Olumide. We'll come and have this space. Talk Ghana, Ghanaian stocks. Ghana is a very interesting country. Very interesting market in Ghana. Your currency is going back up. Yeah.
I'll say that. So talk later.
Okay, no worries. Yeah.
They actually have Standard Chartered. They actually have Standard Chartered listed
in Ghana,
exchange, right? And the exchange was, I think, was it the best performing last year? Yeah, it was the top.
Their currency was best performed. Yeah. It went up. Their stock market went up. Their risk rating has been increased. It's gone from junk to junk. I'm not abusing you. This is just a technical term. So
I think their fundamentals are Brighton.
The new guy came in. Yeah, they were trying to copy Nigeria to do spending. And I think they learned their lesson now. So they shouldn't spend like Nigeria. But let's not distract you. What's your question here?
Okay, so I'm in my early 20s. I just finished school and I've started investing in the US market. But the thing is that I have, let's say, about $200 invested in the market because I'm working at 9 to 5 and I'm trying to do some savings with investment. So the thing is, I don't, because of my earning power, I don't fully own the stocks I have now. So I have fractional shares in NVIDIA, Vistra Energy, and NVTS, and some other stocks. I can't remember. So they're always here. So my problem is, even though I'm earning returns on the fractional shares, it will take some time for me to own the larger part of the share. So I'll save up to about $30 now, and I'm thinking of the next stock to invest in. But because my earning power is very low, I guess I'll have to go the fractional way. So I'm here to advise on my strategy and everything. Thank you.
So this is a clear candidate for just going ETFs alone and just staying on ETFs. The index ETFs. So because you don't have too many bullets to shoot, right? You want to make each bullet count. The way you make each bullet count is to try to buy the equity index itself. The index itself. So, for instance, you want to buy this down, right? Let's say you want to buy all the stocks in the world. Let's use a quote-unquote, air quote, good stock in the world. You go to Vanguard, there's something called an ETF called VT. VT will give you all the stocks in the world. So US stocks, Canadian stocks, Ghanaian stocks. If it's quote-unquote meets that criteria, it will be in VT. So let's say for like you now, you want to buy stocks in the US alone. You want to just buy US stocks like you've done already. You want to then look at VTI. So that VTI will give you about nearly 4,500 stocks in the US, from Tesla to Nvidia to Microsoft, for about 4,500 of them. And you are buying them at the same price, i.e. the same fractional price. With just $25 or so, you can get into and buy fractional shares of VTI, which is just 4,500 stocks in the US market. So let's now say you say, wow, I'm having 4,500. I want to be more concentrated. I want to really get into the market, the cocoa boys, the big boys in the US market. You now want to do VOO. VOO is the same as VTI, but it's giving you just 500 stocks in the US market. So we've gone from VT to VTI to VOO, and we're still in that same asset class, US stocks. But you are buying the index, not buying the Nvidias, the other ones. You're buying that concentrated market that you want to play in. It's giving you exposure to the US market. You are getting dividends in dollars, and you are there. As your income starts to expand, because as you get older, hopefully you're going to get more income. You can then start to say, okay, I want to do resident in the US, VGE, I want to do BNE bonds. So you have to expand from that equity base that you've built up already, right? But for now, instead of you buying the Nvidia, because if you buy $1 worth of Nvidia, $1 worth of Nvidia, Nvidia does 1,000%. What have you made? $2? You see the point I'm making? But you've made 1,000%. But if you try to concentrate on the index itself, it's the same exposure, but you are giving yourself more than just getting that one stock. So I would focus, just go back to buying the index itself. And Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors, just says he's going. That's what he advises. Just buy the index. John Bogle, buy the index because it's cheaper. It's the same thing you're doing. But instead of you trying to buy one goat out of the head of 1,000 goats, Just buy the entire head. That's what I'm saying.
And I think he has an advantage, you know. He has a unique advantage. The fact that he's Ghanaian, he has one clear advantage over the average Nigerian. So I looked at top US stock brokers in the United States. They allow Ghanaian residents. Interactive Broker, for example, one of the biggest brokerage firms in the United States, allow Ghanaians to open directly. So he can look at that directly without incurring currency exchange gap losses, because definitely we get that market inflation with his currency. If he has dollar directly, definitely we get. So he doesn't really have to worry about what a lot of Nigerians face. They have to go through a local intermediary to get. So you have the advantage, right? Ghanaian, it's better to tap into that, because trust me, you don't know the advantage you have. Getting a US stockbroker directly without traveling to the United States is a big advantage, because like all those ETFs Carlos spoke about, if you start early and you look at it and for educational reasons, you try to understand how it works, even when you make mistakes, you'll be able to adjust. The things don't just happen overnight. The abilities first, get acquainted with the platform, fill the documentation, open the account, try to understand these symbols Carlos mentioning, what drives them, the components, follow accounts, read on these things. It becomes an habit. In the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you develop some form of intellectuality around that space that you'll be able to understand the reasons why these things move and why these things come down, and you can increase. And since they are backed by US law, and there's this continuity, unlike bankruptcy, continuity there. The Interactive Broker, for example, is very old. It's not one of the world's richest. It's on the top 100 richest men in the world. So I'm just trying to tell you how big. So as a Ghanaian, you can tap into that Interactive Brokers. I don't know of Fidelity, but you can also look at other options. I'll just give you an example. So try to get an account, look at those symbols, understand them, learn the historicals, the stories behind them, look at the news, and keep being conversant. I think the sky will not be your limit.
And also, Nick, you want to reinvest your dividends, no matter how small. So most of these guys will offer what we call a DRIP, D-R-I-P, dividend reinvestment plan. So when you buy those stocks, make sure you are reinvesting dividends. Just buy the same thing. You don't need dividends when you're too young for dividends. Just reinvest your dividends, buy the same stock. That's dropping your average cost. It's increasing your return on investment. So as you get older, as your portfolio is maturing, the costs are falling because you are reinvesting your dividends to buy the same stock with the same returns for the same stocks. So that's compounding your investing, right? Which is a verb. Yeah?
One last question, please.
Nee, just because you're Ghanaian and our rice is better than yours. Go ahead.
Okay, on the local front, I want to ask Olinde and you on this talk on ETI and the dividends they pay, because I think it's cost listed on the Ghanaian Stock Exchange too.
Are you just buying it because it's listed on the Australian Stock Exchange? Is that why you're buying it?
So actually, on the market last year, they did up 91% just in capital gains.
Okay, when you want to buy a stock, what's the number one or number two things you really focus on? Like, why are you talking about ETI? Is it just that capital gains? What's capital gains? Is it the return, the price?
Yeah, so when I'm buying it, I look at the growth potential on the price.
What instance is that? What instance is that? When you say group, what is that?
There's a profit on the price. They move from
Okay.
1 to 2%.
I hear you.
That's the good.
I hear you. But profits can be manipulated. If I want to make 100% profits today, I can. I can simply delay payments, book profits, and I make 100% profit. I'm not saying that's what they are doing, but what you want to look for, again, if you're a long-term investor, you want to buy a good stock at a cheap price. You want to buy Messi when Messi is 12 years old, not when Messi is 30 years old. Because at 30, everybody knows Messi. But when you buy Messi when he's 8 years old, nobody knows him. How do you find Messi? The price to earnings. A good company is a company that's got earnings. Earnings. So how do you trace those earnings? You don't know what's going to happen in the future. So you want to have a huge margin of safety between today and the future. So your price to earnings ratio should try to show you that that stock is a cheap price. The return on equity, return on assets, return that tells you how much or how well that company is deploying its assets, is deploying its raised capital to run that company. So try to, profits are good, but try to ask yourself, this company, what is the future earnings going to be like? And at what price am I buying that earnings? If today, if Messi goes to any club in the world, they will buy him. Not a no-brainer. But at what price is the kicker? At what price? If you don't buy Messi at £1 million, you want to buy him at $1 billion, you're not ever going to make money. It's Messi, but if you buy him at $1 billion, you won't make money. If you buy him at $1 million, you make money. See the point I'm making, sir?
Yeah.
So try to buy a good company at a cheap price. Then that way your margin of safety is very, very large. So even if you make a mistake, you have that huge margin. But if you buy a good company at an expensive price, you've bought a good company. No, we'll clap for you, but you are never going to make money from that company, because the PE means that over time you have to make all that earnings to compensate. Kia, keep on Kia. We gotta go. I appreciate it. Like I said, yeah, anytime we see the space on, share it on Ghanaian Twitter, you guys should come in. We love you guys and we'll be able to talk, yeah? Perfect. Thank you so much. Moses, are you in the hiding, sir?
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Kalu.
Hey, what's up, man?
I'm fine. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Mr. Olumide, thank you. I've been following you for the past 2 years now, and you've been of immense knowledge and value to us. Thank you very much. So I have a question already. So I have my option account current-wise. I got some sort of $500 on carry, but with the rate Naira is getting stronger against the dollar. I want to ask, is it still advisable to get mutual funds in dollars instead of the Nigerian stocks? I don't know, because I don't know the fate of currency, if it will get better, or should I still maintain my holdings in dollars? Because at some point in time, I started changing. Once I get my pay, I started changing to dollars and then changing to pounds. I don't know. So that's my question. Thank you very much.
Olimide, he's taking steps to ask you if you should hold Naira or dollars.
Exactly. So I get that, and I do like to fall into that trap because, we are very sensitive with exchange transactions analysis. But to be honest with you, you mentioned earlier, what's your objective? Is it wealth preservation, cash flow? So I'll give you a basic example. So I had a friend that had a lot of cash, and he kept it in the bank, and I was like, why are you keeping this kind of money in the bank? You have people you pay salary, right? You pay them in Naira, right? And I was like, where would he invest that? This Nigerian stock thing is not really. I said, well, you don't really have to look at Nigerian stocks. You could use the money market, for example, for cash flow. So you just imagine, even the fact that the federal government has adjusted the tax laws, where if you have capital gains of more than 10 million and initial principal of over 150, you can be exposed. But right now, just imagine he tapped into that and uses his cash flow to pay for staff salary. So because he has that responsibility, my question for you is, do you have that responsibility? Is your salary, does it cover your expectation? So if your salary covers your expectation, that means you're not under pressure, right? it means that, okay, you might take a longer view. Because, you see, the truth of the matter is that we don't really know what will happen tomorrow. We don't really know, but we can foresee, we can forecast. We can look at the historical. It's very unlikely the currency does 40% or 30% like it did in 2023. We know the reason why that happened, right? But it can happen. Look at the Ghanaian currency, for example. We didn't see it appreciating that much this year. So it can happen. So you also need to weigh in that the risk and look at the what is it for you. For me, I would say that if you have Naira obligations, you are in Nigeria, you have Naira, definitely you can't ignore the Naira. But if you're looking at things, for example, maybe you are building a trust for a child, maybe you want your child to go to Harvard, you want your guys to go, maybe you're looking at them, maybe you might consider the bond index funds, for example, where you can keep funds for, because definitely the dollar is much safer than the Naira in the longer spectrum. Nobody's arguing that. But I think the mistake a lot of people make is that because the dollar is stronger than that, doesn't mean that people don't make better earnings, returns with Naira over the dollar. And one of the things I really feel that also is that Nigerian businessmen are very smart at that. Because when I talk about money market, I talk about Nigerian stocks, I talk about the bond market. There are guys that do this things better than guys that just hold the dollar blindly. The only thing is just that you don't really have to be very intelligent to invest in dollar assets. I mean, the debt market over a long period, because inflation in the US is lower, and look at the return right now. So you're getting a positive return. But in the Nigerian market, you look at the currency, it's sometimes it fluctuates in a form of stability, at least in the past couple of months, but it's been fluctuating for a while. So those opportunities create arbitrage. So it depends on sophistication. But me, I personally, I'll tell you that for me, I hold the two. But recently, I increased on the Naira, and I have no regrets doing that. But I have an objective, and I understand that if things go wrong, I know how to hedge against that. That's where a lot of people make mistakes. And that's what I was telling people in the UK, for example, that if you held the British pound in January, now you change it in July, you're making much more money than someone that just held the US dollar in January. This is not even about the Naira. This is currency hedging. And what made you understand? Because the US economy had been consistent. The US did not attack the UK in terms of trade policy, and also the UK has been able to stand firm on certain reform policy, and that has really strengthened the currency. So it depends on all the things you have in your ammunition. So there's no clear-cut answer.
But let's dimension the dollar issue in Nigeria. Let's dimension Naira and dollar. So let me give you the positives. When we look at the exchange rate of dollar to Naira, I personally do not think it should be higher than 700. Why is it 1600? Because of the expectation, the uncertainty around getting dollars tomorrow, not today, tomorrow. So what happens? If I am an importer of a raw material for my factory and I need to import $10,000 of raw materials to Nigeria to use every month, because I am not sure I will get this raw materials tomorrow, i.e. dollar tomorrow, what will I import? I import 6 months worth. So I'll go to my bank and import 60,000. I only need 10,000. So I demand 50,000 extra. That 50,000 is pressure on the exchange rate because I don't need it. So that pressure causes Naira to fall. That's what's happened in Nigeria for the last 10 years. We are not sure of getting dollars tomorrow, so we demand more for school fees, for medical care, just to have it in Nigeria in our hand, right? And then it causes Naira to go from that 700 to 1600. That's what's going on. What the CBN are trying to do in the last 6 months that also took over is to try to bring confidence to the market. To say, if you want that 10,000 next month, I will give it to you. So you don't need to order the extra $50,000 worth of raw materials. That's what they are doing till now. They are saying, if you have your Naira card, go and use it. They don't have the dollars to defend this, but they are trying to instill confidence. If there is confidence that now, if I want raw materials next month, I can get it. I will no longer order for $50,000 of raw materials. I will only order for maybe 3 months. So I reduce my demand from 60 to 30. That loss of demand, allows the naira to rise. So it's a vicious circle or a positive circle, either way you look at it. What's the problem with this strategy? The problem with this strategy is this, right? Nigeria is only getting forex from one source, crude oil and gas. That's the problem with this strategy. What it means is that right now, look at it, we had the Iranian war and oil is still lower than it was today than January. Oil is still below our benchmark. We are at maybe Brent crude about 75 to 70. What happens if Brent crude starts to go down? Then even without that demand, even without importers doing that excess demand, there will now be pressure on the dollar because we now need more dollars for the normal import. And that's the problem with this strategy. Whilst we're doing the right thing to remove the artificial demand that is depressing in Naira, if we don't increase the flow of foreign portfolio investments, foreign direct investments, remittances that are going to come to Nigeria, then we're not doing anything. 89% of our forex come from crude oil. We can't build a $1 trillion economy on one product. It's not going to work. And that's where the problem really is. Yeah,
but Kalu, I think for me, I think the outlook is changing on that. And I'll mention why. The big elephant in the room, Dangote Refinery. And also the fact that intelligently, the CBN has allowed the rates to remain at that level because it makes them defend less. Look at the currency, like you mentioned, if it was around 1,000 or 700, you look at the amount. So the market value of the currency at its way it is fairly easy to maintain. And that's why I said the CBN has that arrowhead. That's why they really brought in this Naira card. So this Naira, because they already looked at the demand supply mechanism, they looked at the left market, looked at all the indices and found out that, well, it seems that they can start really allowing these products back into the market. Now, the second thing is that Dangote Refinery, you're right. You know, the Nigerian currency, normally I call Nigerian currency oil currency because it really backed by oil, crude oil, the prospect of crude oil, the level of crude oil we are in, and the fact that some of them are tied to debt. And when you look at the sharing formula, it's not like Nigeria, if we sell for example, we sell 1 million barrels at $60 million, it's not that Nigeria gets those $60 million, there's a sharing formula. We don't really do this all directly, you know, there's a trend. So when you look at that percentage, I look at that, then you know that, man, we don't really get as much, like even what the Saudis or the Iraqis or the Iranians get. However, Dangote has really changed the outlook in the sense that the cost of subsidy is one of the things that hit our dollar. The subsidy, corruption, is down. At some point, it helped a third of Nigeria's total FX earnings, and I think that's really dropping. If you look at data now, petrol subsidy last a year has dropped by almost half, which that's a big improvement, and it's increasing. The only problem we're having is that rather than Dangote is not getting the more local supply, so he has to import from America. However, that really seems to be even out by the price it is. Now, the bet is that if Dangote gets things right, like he said, because he's talking about bringing in about $30 billion, that's the fair value in the next couple of years. And I really don't want to bet against him after building that big refinery. My guess is that definitely the pressure of the Naira will definitely readjust. The problem we're having is just that Dangote seems to be the one paying all the products because the Nigerian manufacturing ecosystem is still at low capacity. The middle class is almost evaporated. Many Nigerians are out the country. The middle class that functionality. And if you look at our purchasing power, it's still very low. The stock market, very few people are benefiting from it. And that's why a lot of people are complaining, which makes a lot of sense that it's not reflected because economic consumption is not trickling down to the average Nigerian. So I expect that Dangote definitely will carry ball. The thing is that if Rabi Refinery comes to play in 2027, before it comes to play, that definitely also supports the economy. The only problem that is having in the midterm is this political drama. You look at in the last 4 days, I've been so upset because it has been politics from one place to another. Now the economy has taken the back foot. There's nothing happening in the agricultural ministry. The power reforms we're not seeing any future possibility about how to improve generation. So those are my worries. The politics are eating deep, that the economy has taken a back stop. The average Nigerian doesn't do better, despite we are seeing the macro showing that the bottom is off. We are out of the bottom. We're already growing. Yeah, so that's where I think that we should be best.
Let me also, let me just also lay this framework. Dangote saved the Nigerian economy. And I don't make that statement lightly. But that effect is going to be felt in the next, I would say, maybe 4 years, 5 years. What do I mean by this? What Dangote is doing today is importing crude oil, refining, making PMS aviation fuel, which he exports back to the US and sells some in Nigeria. The real benefit of Dangote will come if he's able to get those petrochemicals from crude oil up and running and is exporting at full blast, which means that from the same crude oil barrel he gets, he can make tons and tons of foreign exchange and then sell and then return those dollars back to Nigeria. So long term, we are okay. But look at the problem with Nigerian economy. We import 60 billion worth of goods. All our food is imported. Our biggest imports are wheat. Wheat is Indomie, wheat is bread, bread. We import that. We import fish. The fish is export. Yeah. Education is important. We import education from the UK. We import healthcare from India. So everything, and this is just what we've recorded that we import. If you compare to what Dangote is bringing in, there's a graph. Dangote is closing that gap, but we're actually importing because we haven't tuned the economy back to local consumption.
I don't have a problem with our importing. I don't have a problem with importing.
The problem is you are paying for the imports.
On the fiscal side,
you can
look at Wiki, for example. He spoke. I don't like to talk about politics.
No, that's unbelievable.
Because it can't happen in the Western world. There's no you guys, even those that are born with a silver spoon. There's no top politician that will talk about Rolls Royce on TV and justify reason of using the Rolls Royce while we're in power. With a country where half of the Nigerians can't even eat spaghetti and mackerel fish. That's where the pain comes from, and I understand that's why you can't make rational economic statements.
Yeah, I hear you.
Angry. I understand that. I think my problem with this government is that the president has to sell austerity to his people. When I mean to his people, to the political elite, he has to show by example. He has to really get at people's credibility. When you get people's credibility, it's easy for you to manage the system. The country is too divided. We can't deny that. Like for example, the stock market is fired up traders. Whether you want to admit, whether you don't want to admit, whether we don't want to accept, the US Nigerian stock market is one of the best performing in the world, and it has been like that for the past couple of years. But the truth is that the average Nigerian cannot benefit because he doesn't have the disposable income to invest. So what does the government do? And I feel that the government needs to really cut when it's been spending in the political side. I'm not really as economist to be talking about when you compare it to GDP is low. I think, for example, that the way these guys are spending on this political structure, and some of them are even asking for more states. I just
want to make it very, very simple. Just land the point I'm trying to make, right? The economy today, the young guys that are educated are leaving the country. That's tax revenues leaving Nigeria. Dangote refinery alone has saved the economy of Nigeria, but it's using imported crude oil. Nigeria does not have enough crude oil to give Dangote to refine and sell byproducts. So instead of making 100, he's making 50. So the closure of that fiscal gap in Nigeria is extended because Dangote does not have crude oil from Nigeria. We are spending too much on nonsense. Last two weeks we had the honorable minister here. We are talking about spending, right? The honorable, yeah, talking about spending. So these things are dragging us down. And you can't talk about exchange rate. Exchange rate is the answer. It's not the question. If the economy is good, it shows on the exchange rate. You don't fix the exchange rate and the economy is fixed. No, you fix the economy, then the exchange is fixed. Nigeria really needs a weak currency, not a strong currency. We are looking for, let me put it this way, we are better off in this economy having 1 naira at this 1600 than at this 700 because we export more. The problem is that in Nigeria, the cost of manufacturing is high. So we can't take advantage of the weak naira. That's the problem. South Korea, what's their currency? Is it weak or strong? Japan, what's their currency? Weak or strong? Switzerland is complaining their currency is too strong. What is strong? I think Federal Reserve guys to do weaken the dollar to push exports. The problem is not the weak naira. Is that the cost of production in Nigeria is so high. To make pure water in Nigeria, you have to buy your own diesel. You have to buy your own water, your own security, your own interest at 30% to make pure water. Meanwhile, in India, you just do public water, public tap, public everything, and you get the same pure water. So you can't compete with imported Indian rice from Nigerian rice. So let's move on. That's what I make that point everybody to be clear. The structure has got to be fixed. You can't fix the exchange rate and then the economy is fixed. No. It's not going to work that way. Mamsi, let me get Mamsi Obinelo.
Hold on. Yeah. I just wanted to add this part that I think the issue here is that if you look at results that came in this year from Nigerian companies, you will see that there's been some adjustments, and you will see that companies are really making, because here, for example, I was able to drink Malta Guinness made in Nigeria. I was able to see some Nigerian drugs here. The problem is that it's just few. It's not widespread.
Let's also go into that. Yeah. Let's also go into that. Right, I see a lot of folks that posted Unilever.
I know the economy is not integrated.
I hear you. Let me just also take this point about the return for them.
I know. I just want us to just stand.
I hear you.
As a country, I feel that we should really look at the positive side and also put pressure on the government that things we need to, because the federal government needs to understand that the common man is not feeling these reforms. They're not feeling the prosperity that we're seeing in the market. That's my only pain. Because many people that are making money in this market are not the common man. Okay. Many players making money of the market are not the common man. So my prayer is that if we can increase the participation of Nigerians, definitely it's going to half of the American population is exposed to the US stock market. So
at the risk of ruining our own parade, right? The stock market is not the economy, right? At the risk of us sound like we're talking about it, but the stock market is a very, very tiny part of the Nigerian economy. The point I'm making is that if you have interest rates in Nigeria at 27%, no SME can borrow at that rate. If SMEs don't borrow, you can't create jobs. I hear you that I hear you, but I hear you, and I'm more an economic guy. I can explain that yes, they want to fight inflation by keeping the rates at 27, but you sacrifice growth. The reason why you say the common man is not finished reforms is because there are no jobs, there's no consumption at the micro level. The bottom pyramid don't care if dollar is 1 or 1,000. They don't care. They want to buy beans, they want to buy gari with their salary. They earn officially 70,000 naira. Officially. Some don't get that. You cannot feed a family of 4 or 2 with 70,000 naira a month. Any government that cannot go to that indices and fix it is not going to go anywhere. I'm not talking about elections. I'm talking about the country itself. That's why the number one aim of every young Nigerian is to jackpot, because it is not possible to live in Nigeria. How would you get married in Nigeria if you are a 30-year-old man? How would you get married? Where? How would you pay for the hall? How would you pay for the ring? How would you pay for the rent? How would you buy your car? How would you, when you have a child, where would that child be born? If you take an average Nigerian, a guy age 30, a girl age 25, put their income together, do their budget, how do they survive? So if you can't fix that today, the stock market can't fix that. But let's move on. Yeah. Let's not go there. Let's Mamsi Obinello. I hope I got that right. Mamsi.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Carlo.
Sorry, we were talking about Lumide was trying to
No problem, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Carlo. Thank you, Lumide, for the enlightenment, for the space. Actually, this is my first time of being in this kind of listening or participating in this kind of space, and actually, I think it's luck or something that brought it in to me. I haven't invested in any kind of stock, and to be honest, practically I have zero knowledge about it. But I always aspire to get along, to get involved in it. So I'm here to ask some questions. Please, how do I start? What do I need to know? What knowledge am I expected to gather? Which steps am I expected to follow? How do I start? How do I learn? How do I compound, accumulate, grow, reinvest, and possibly in the market, please?
I think the best way is just to invest in knowledge. Before you invest in any asset class, invest in knowledge. So anything you spend 2 hours on, anything for the next 2 years, you become an expert in it. Today, there are free resources. Just go online, go to YouTube, put how can I learn about stocks or how can I invest. You see tons of free videos. Tons. You can watch YouTube. You can buy books. You can get a good quality headphone on your way to work. You download podcasts and you listen to podcasts. On your way back home, you do the same thing. If you surround yourself with information about the markets, personal finance, investing, you watch Bloomberg, and all that, there is no way you will understand what you are talking about. Because I would not like anyone to invest a kobo in what you don't understand. You lose money. If you don't know what a bull market means and you can invest money, you think they're buying cows, you lose money. So you want to be very, very clear before you invest. So invest in knowledge. There's no rush. If you have an RSA, do your RSA. Your company will help you. You invest the money there. But invest in knowledge. Start slowly. If you have to invest, that's why I always push ETFs, because it's a cheaper, more diversified way for a younger person to invest. But if you go buy the individual stocks, you're exposing yourself to so much risk you don't really know what A and B means. It's the same way if you want to learn about football. How do you learn about football? When you started watching Arsenal, did you know what offside was? You didn't know what offside was, but you learned what offside was after 2 or 3 games. Exactly with investing.
No, sir.
Yeah, so you've got to invest in education first, and everything will happen for you. That's how I will answer that question, sir.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome, man.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Let's get living and learning. Living and learning. You've been here, man. How you doing?
I've been here.
I know. So I blame Olumide. Olumide is a co-host, so if not bringing you up, anything bad, just blame Olumide. Yeah. What's your mind, sir?
Yeah, that's okay. Good day, everyone, and thanks for this opportunity. My name is Ifyok, actually, and I've been following you guys for quite some time, and I would say I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I'm an investment banker, actually, so I also, on my own end, try to see how I could also bridge this financial literacy gap that has been identified in our society. Also, using content as well to be able to promote all of it and just talk about it. So firstly, I just want to speak up on, there was someone that spoke earlier that caught my attention. I think his name was Shaibu or Shuaibu that spoke something about him being a business owner and how he could go about that to say he invests in stocks and all. So although I like the input that you gave, having to do the whole RSA thing and all, but I kind of looked at it from an investment, like a investment banking perspective, and I just looked at it from the perspective of how you would analyze the business and how you would expect the business to also scale up as well. So I saw it from the perspective of him trying to treat the business as a separate entity from himself, meaning that the business can stand on its own. If it generates its own revenue, then he can also find a way to create a portion, have a discussion with his management, or if he's a sole proprietor of the business, and he decides on a percentage that he will be looking to allocate out of the business revenue and have it invested in other asset classes, such that at a period where the business is unable to generate sales, those returns from those investments can be able to cover up for expected revenue generations in some other time of the month. Basically, I don't know if you understand, or just basically you taking a portion of the revenue that you've gotten or the profit that has been made, and then investing it in other assets classes that you know that within a 6 month period or a 1 year period, it generates income, and that income can now be able to suffice for other expenses that you might incur basically along the way. And yeah, secondly, I heard you guys talking about the Ghana performance and all, but one of the things I was expecting to hear was in terms of their gold, and I don't know why no one brought that up, which I felt is something to also commend them for, given that it has also helped to the appreciation of their currency too as well, and has helped in their economic stability too as well. So yeah, those are just my two inputs. Lastly, I like the discussion that Olumide said in terms of the political instability and all of that. That's one thing that I know that as much as we all don't like to talk about it, it's really a bad look for investors, given that for a country like ours that is heavily dependent on FDIs, that has like a negative impact as to how investors will most likely see our market, because at the end of the day, the expectations from investors will be that how they can be able to come in and hold for a specific period or like a long-term period. But if they have to start basing their investment period on like a 4-year basis, it kind of just frustrates them and just makes them not rather come in, but rather just stay where they are. So that's one of the issues, and it's quite sad that we're just in 2025 and already discussions of a new government coming into town, all of these parties and all of that are already happening and all. As an investor, even if I'm just say like 2 years deep into this administration and all of that, it would most likely change my perception, and it will basically just give me cause to worry about, and just having to worry about what are the most likely things that will happen if, say, a new government comes in, they bring up new policies, and it just basically affects the overall economic performance as a whole. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents, and thank you guys once again for the opportunity.
Man, that's powerful, man. Investment like that. Let's touch on that point about Ghana, because I think it's very, very important, like the point you just made. So what the Ghanaian president did was he took the gold reserves, right? And he sort of said he bought gold reserves, then used the gold reserves to back the cedis, right? So he converted gold to foreign reserves, right? And then the foreign reserves then made the cedi go up. Nigeria also did that, you know. Nigeria has gold in Osun, has gold in Zamfara, but see the difference between Ghana and Nigeria. Nigeria, I saw Buhari a long time ago. They brought him gold bullion he bought. That's one way you can boost your revenues, right? Your foreign reserves. You just commoditize. No, I was shouting, commodify cassava. What that guy was saying, commodify the naira. That's what he was saying. That commodify the naira. This is what he was saying. You take a commodity and you turn to your foreign reserves. So if we had gone to Zamfara now, let's say the army had gone to Zamfara and secured Zamfara, no illegal mining, Then we now give a guy license and said, hey, you must bring all the gold you mine. We'll allow you to export 50%, but the Central Bank of Nigeria is going to buy gold. What will Central Bank of Nigeria buy the gold with? Naira. We take good. You give the guy Naira, you take the gold and you take the CBN. What happens to Naira? It gets stronger. We did it before Ghana, but we stopped. Ghana is doing, that's why the dollar is going up. We can do the same thing with crude oil. The problem is that when you commodify a currency, you are telling investors that that currency ban is tied to that commodity. So you can't do a deficit spending. You see the problem? You can't deficit spend because then there's no point commodifying. If you say we are going to commodify the Naira to cassava, you are saying that we are only going to print to the level of cassava output. So there's no inflation because if we have 1 ton of cassava, we print Naira. So investors say, okay, yeah, I like Naira because Naira will have no inflation. They cannot print more than the cassava they are producing. Is that what's happening today? Ways and Means was 22 trillion under the same Buhari that commodified gold. 22 trillion. Then Tinubu came and added 7 trillion. Total 29 trillion ways and means that is being pushed onto bonds that your kids, my kids, including the Jackpot kids, are going to pay. We're going to pay that trillion back. So that's the point. It's like when people say, let's go back to gold standard. It's perfect to go back to gold standard, but that means you cannot have deficit spending. There is no more spend 7 trillion to do street lights, which is good. But you also do not have deficit financing to do levels build coastal road. Everything will stop. You only spend according to your taxes, and we don't make enough taxes, ladies and gentlemen. Nigeria is a very, very rich country, very, very poor citizens. We have a lot of resources in Nigeria, but we are wasting it. Ethiopia.
I'm just saying that there's a perspective at which. Sorry, I just want to chip in that there's a perspective at which I'm looking at it from too as well, that we should look at it from a structural perspective too as well. So if I'm not mistaken, there's one of the things that actually also made the Ghanaian economy or like their gold reserves and all of that stand out, given that the president had come up with like a board. Also, he restructured like the board and then set up like a board that would be the sole trader of their gold. Now, the strategy that they did was that they said that all foreign investors should basically leave the company. All foreign like gold miners that basically trade this gold should leave their gold industry, given that it will now only be that board that will be the major exporter of that gold. So that kind of what's the word? Streamlined the process. It puts a cadre to state that yes, this will be like the sovereign body that will be in control of whatsoever trading activity that is happening within that industry. So I think for our own like perspective too as well, one of the things that I've come to realize that is a key issue in the Nigerian economy is this structure of everything. Governance is a very, very key issue. It's a perspective that even when you assess the performance of a business, you have to look at the management or the governance structure of that business. Now, this is one of the things that makes a Dangote an outlier, and that's why he identified the oil and gas industry and decided that, look, this industry is an industry that is lacking structure. So, given that I have the liquidity to be able to like accommodate all of this, let me come into that industry and create a structure. Now, I believe that if in all other industry and all other sectors, we have that one body that oversees everything, that reports everything, that gives an overall structure on everything, maybe then it could now be able to...
Yeah, we are... I mean, we have all that. There's no law in Nigeria we don't have. The laws in Nigeria are superior to the laws in America and the EU. We have everything. Our pension fund is superior to the 401k. We have it. The problem is policy is personnel. An American minister cannot ride a Rolls Royce. A Swiss minister cannot ride a Rolls Royce. They are richer than us, but they cannot ride a Rolls Royce. I'm sure if you go to Dubai or Abu Dhabi, I'm very sure they don't ride Rolls Royce. They are princes. They own the country. I'm very sure they don't ride Rolls Royce. I'm very sure. I'm not sure, but I'm sure. But you see, the point I'm making is that, like Olumide has said, when a minister can argue, not that they caught him, no, they can catch you and you say, they caught me. Let me try and say something to escape. No. He's justifying how he should ride a Rolls Royce. So what are you going to say?
So I just wanted to add that gold debate, and it's a bit sensitive. And to be fair, Nigeria has exposure in gold. I think we did a story on our metrics where the CBNs made sizable amount of, I can't remember the figure, from gold. But you see, gold, Ghanaians have much higher production capacity than Nigeria. And if you look at gold producing countries, particularly the Australians and South Africa, you could see that also helped their currency. There's 3 shifts that have happened in global finance from last year, increasing inflows from US debt to gold. That helps countries like Ghana, because now, if you notice, the holdings of Japan and particularly China reduced. There was even a time when we even saw the Europeans also
increase.
telling the Americans that
you mean
we
increase?
want to take our gold. Like, we want to take our gold back. Like, like the United States holds gold for Germany and some key countries. But you see, so central banks in Europe, for example, are aligned with gold and Bitcoin. They're not buying into Trump's Bitcoin agenda. No, for now, they're keen on gold. And that's why, unsurprisingly, gold has done standing well. However, I think my key problem in Nigeria, like our FM is that the CBN should not make the mistake that other administrations make. Because when Kaduso came in, he said something that I was so happy about. He said that he was going to focus on monetary issues. But when I saw the CBN on tax board, I'm seeing the CBN and people are making good excuses that, because these things are intertwined, to do with banks, to deal with so many FX companies, NNPCs, revenue and things like that. I was like, but we have a federal Ministry of Finance at the board of the CBN, because Kanu mentioned things like, if you look at the Americans, not that they are perfect, but you don't see the US Fed, for example. You don't see the US Fed toying with IRS. No, even despite the fact that the US government makes most of its money from tax. In fact, the tax is the major element for the US government. So I think for me, what we really need in Nigeria is not new policies. Institutions should be focused on what they are doing, and they should allow them to do things efficiently. If we're going to have an exchange rate that is market driven, we should remove the fiscal bottlenecks, allow the man do his job. The fiscal side should also do his job. That, for me, I think is what Nigeria needs.
All right, I hear you. I mean, just last note, right? Only the last note. In 2025 June, the Nigerian Senate said that they want to spend the 2024 budget up to December 2025. So what they are saying is that all the money that was appropriated that we didn't have money to execute 2024, we'll spend it this year together with 2025 budget. That just tells you that there is no iota of cutting costs according to your cloth, not size, to your cloth. They're going to keep on spending this money. Where is the money to do the 2024 budget? Is it the 2025 revenue or 2024 revenue that didn't exist? So these guys are not serious in terms of fiscal. That's why, like you said, the CBN has taken rate to 27%. Because if you're going to spend, CBN will go to 27%, right? And that's to borrow. So this again only goes back to the structure. If you have that kind of situation, the CBN is saying, let me try and bring confidence to the macro side. But these guys in the government are spending like sailors that just left a bar.
And I'm not making money at all. In fact,
can in the next couple of years, if the projection is this, that company will be making more money than the Nigerian federal government. Yeah, look at it now. Look at how much we made last year. The federal government, I'm not talking of the federation. The federal government, look at what the federal government made in 2024. Look at what Dangote's projection is for 2025.
Do you know what Dangote is? Dangote is just a well-managed NNPC. If NNPC was managed the way Dangote has run its refinery from 1970, it would have been like Aramco. All you had to do was connect all the West African countries with gas pipelines for free. Build the gas pipeline for free from Lagos all the way to Mauritania. Then what would you have done? You either to buy the gas in Naira, which means every year they will come to Nigeria and buy Naira to buy our gas. So if you like, print like what US does, print 122 trillion, no problem. Ghana, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso will have to buy that Naira to buy your gas. So you have an outlet for your fiscal irresponsibility. But what did we do? NNPC cannot run a functional refinery. NNPC could not run it. So we are paying for our sins. Let's just move on. We are paying for our sins. And there is nothing with an N in front of it that is functional. With an N, Nigerian Airways, NNPC, Nigerian Shipping Line, NFA, anything you have N in front, because it's run by the government, it doesn't work. So if Dangote had done a Jakarta still, it would have been working. So you hate the man all you want. If Dangote had done it would have worked and it would have been going somewhere. But let's get other guys in to speak. Honorable.
Last one.
Real quick.
I just want to get you people's opinion on something. Yeah, that's in terms of transparency within our political class. So you know how in the US, you could easily even be able to see the trade patterns of some certain politicians out there. Why is it that that kind of thing does not happen down here? What's your opinion on that?
It can
How do you think we can also bring that kind of initiative?
We have the law. We have the law called. We have the law, but it's not going to happen. Politically exposed people. We have it now. The U.S. laws are in Nigeria as well. If you trade shares, your name is shown in insider trading laws are in Nigeria as well. If you go online, you will see that this man has sold shares. You see it there, but we don't enforce it. We can let's I don't know trouble. A minute. Somebody published an article that somebody's son got land. What was the response of the government? They arrested the guy and queried him. He has a query that he breached Official Secrets Act. That a Nigerian said somebody's doing corruption. He went and reported. They arrested him. Then are querying him that he breached, which is more important, Secrets Act or Whistleblower Act? What are we talking about? So tomorrow, who will report anybody acting? Well, so let's not. The laws are there. What I'm talking about is the implementation of the laws. Is when you just what's MFL being charged for? Firearms law. He's not being charged for ways and means. So MFL is being charged that they found shotgun in his house. That's what they first of all charged him with. Look at the law. They didn't charge him for 22 trillion. So the laws are, if they want to get you, they will get you. Al Capone was charged for tax evasion, which was unique at that time. The unique arrangement. So in Nigeria, they will charge you for a law you've not heard of. But this one, they will say, Secret Act, whistleblower. Man, Honorable, hop in here, please. Living, I really appreciate you. Honorable, let's say what. We have about 20 minutes to go. So let's just try to let everyone that is available here now speak. They will just, Honorable, go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Carlo.
Amen. Should I run for one seat? You guys give me one small seat. Let me just.
I'll take my time to listen to you guys on Nigeria's investment review, Warrior and City Cost. You know, you can't do anything if you are not with these guys. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Which guys is this? Which guys?
I'm talking about the political class. You know, let me use myself as an example. constituency or borrow one constituency, that is a community. If you're not part of the system, you will be there, they will make law, all right, enforce it on you, and you see that you are going backward. All we need to get Nigeria right is people like you, captain of kind of capitals, captain of good advisors, that people that know how to get it done. All they need to do is to fold their hands, fold their sleeves, and enter the rest. So that by 2027, when we have people like you in the government as a house member, at least we have people like you, like 30% or 40%, can change the mindset of all those things that is happening there. But believe in me that if you get in there with the stress, because to be there, you have to borrow money, you have to use your own resources to be there. And after court cases, you summon how much you have spent. My brother, you will have a good cause to do one or two things for Nigeria, but because the way it was given to you, there's nothing you can do about it. You want to recover your money, and from there you start being corrupt. From the better person you are to worse that you are not. So, I'm talking about, based on what you are saying, the worry now, based on the topic, the worry is that we need to be involved in order to get this work in Nigeria. All right? If as it is now in Nigeria, there is hope, very big hope. All right? No matter how Nigerian government is doing whatever they are doing, the business class, the traders have joined them in $100, because most of the traders I know don't normally go to China anymore. All they do is to buy dollar on Saturday and start selling by Wednesday, Thursday. All right, making their little money. So imagine where you invest 10 million in dollar, and on Saturday, then on Tuesday you are getting like 11 million. It's a good business. You understand? So
you are saying that people have just abandoned real sector to just focus on this buying and selling of paper.
Yeah, the people that have done it, traders are one of the main Nigerian problem now, because the moment they find out that you don't need to go to market and buy goods from where you come to see, they are charging you high, and all you need to do is how much is dollar. Dollar is 1,500 today. Mm-hmm. He will invest his money there. Then hopefully in 3 days' time that they buy on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and make their sales Tuesday, Wednesday. Then they invest purchase like 10 million naira worth of dollar, and get their return of investment of 2 million, making it 12 million. Mm. What are you going to China to do? So this is the problem. So the traders have joined the political class, hoarding dollars. In fact, they are not hoarding, they buy it now. I have a friend that told me that I don't normally buy goods in China anymore. We buy dollar, then you wait for it to appreciate like 2 naira, 3 naira times how many pieces you acquire. So it's good business for them. So Nigeria's, if you talk about Nigerian problem, this you can have 200 hours, can't even find a solution. The most important thing is that when people like you made up their mind to join the race.
Let me ask you, but do we have to go into policy to change Nigeria? I mean,
if you are not there, there's nothing you can do there. Okay, let me give you an example. Do you know, let me ask you, if you contest something like federal rep, do you know how much it takes to contest a federal rep?
Yeah, but why would I want to? My question is that should we be a politician to change the country? That's just where I'm going to. I know guys that have come back to Nigeria, set up a cancer hospital in Nigeria. They're not a politician, but effecting real change. I just mean the mindset that we have to. I get where you're going to with you have to change policy, but we all can't be House members. That's where I'm
No. Let me tell you. Okay, even if you don't want to go there. You can get people you guys can sponsor in order to make sure these people are your own core people. They invest. You understand what I'm saying? These are the only people who can change the inside out, because those people you see there, that once a good man that has goodwill for this country, but because of the type of money they spent, because of what they passed through to be there. So when you borrow like 10,000 and you went in there, you have to recover your 10,000 before discussion. But imagine people sponsored you. We have a lot of people like you sponsor from states to federal. When you tell them, see, TPK, this is what we want, TPK will listen to you.
Okay.
But when these men got in there with their own money, the stress, the sweat, my brother, they only look for their money. All of them were once good people. They wanted to do something.
No, point understood. I get you. Point understood. Well taken. Yeah. I mean, it's like one thing we do in this space is to equip people with information to ask those questions. That's what we do here, Lumide and I. We're trying to just say, okay, you are angry, but why are you angry? There's something. The spending is bad, but what spending? What policy is bad? That's what we're trying to do, because you just cannot carry a, should we say, grudge or anger without saying this is why I don't like what the government is doing.
There's something you posted once at a time. You said street light is 200 and something. How many billion?
$200 million naira for a street light.
But if you look at it, where you will see what they wrote their frequency.
Yes, we brought the houseman, and we also brought the author of the report, and we trashed it out. Yes, there's an issue with the frequency. It's not 200 million per pole, but it's still a waste, because the 7 trillion is still extra. It's not the poles for 7 trillion are extra to what the power ministry and the rural development projects guys are spending. It's an extra. It's still a waste. Honorable, we got to move on. I get the. I think you've landed the point.
You've not spoken about listings. Dangote, the fertilizer plant listing. That was a big deal in the market. I think we're expecting some listings also in the US.
Didn't he postpone the refinery listing?
Let me talk about Dangote a bit.
Okay, I don't want you to. We have 20 minutes to go, so I really want others to speak really, really quick. If you're going to.
All right. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you, but I just want others to get the picture. Only didn't Dangote postpone his listing for Dangote?
But he didn't say that.
It was postponed.
According to the street gist, you are right. I'm just trying to give you an idea. Definitely 2026, late 2026, that's the refinery.
Okay.
And that's because the focus lies on the urea plant, and that's a very big one. In fact, he stated some ambitious revenue targets outpacing Qatar, and I think that would definitely also push the optics of Nigeria's business capital and the Nigerian economy entirely.
Dangote is going to be the top 10 richest men in the world.
A third of his exports goes to the United States. That's a big deal too. And I think balance is changing, because if you look at trade over the years, for some time it used to be US, UK, but in the last decade or so, it has been China. But the way things are going now, I think the US is catching up now. It's more because you look at the amount of oil Dangote gets from US. Major export, he even prefers US oil than the Algerian or Angola oil. they're now looking at urea. So the listing will be a very big one. And I think the listing of that and NNPCL, I don't know when NNPCL, because they just changed their management. They're not talking about that yet, but we're seeing transparency now. They're bringing out their revenue goals. They have a team that really relates well with the public and the media. So yeah, we are seeing the optics, which is good. So I'm expecting they also will list, but they've not spoken about that.
Okay.
So I think people really focus on the Dangote Refinery listing. The numbers are coming. It's a private company, but it will be one of the biggest. I don't know if the market valuation will be bigger than Delta when it comes out, but I think it will be in the first 3 at least. I think it's something people should really look out for.
All right.
The book they're saying end of the year 2025.
Quick question, really quick. Sorry, okay, I got a really quick question. Is Dangote Refinery making money?
Is Dangote Refinery making money? Can be honest with you, I don't have the numbers, but these things I hear these things sometimes just. But from a revenue perspective, as in not just looking at his event.
So not revenue, net. Revenue is making big trillions. Net, yeah.
Net. The business model, the way Dangote has done business model, I think is making money.
Okay.
And I think the margin is healthy, and I'll tell you why. He's getting, even the fact that he's even importing WTI. If you look at the cost, and you look at the fact that the Nigerian government was also giving him at Naira, you look at the cost of labor, and you look at the margin in the refinery business, I definitely think he is.
Okay.
I think the only problem he has now is that, he took some credit, and I think he's trying to sort that out, trying to make, and NNPC defaulted on their support arrangement, so he had to do all those things.
Okay.
But I think
that's already here.
I think Dangote is a very important.
Sorry, can I add to this? Can I just add to this? It's a long-term business, He definitely took debt, so in terms of net, he's not there yet. But projections, revenue, market share, he's going to new markets. People forget that when you do a business like this, your projections matter in the short term more than the net that you're making that short term, because it shows investors that you're going to make money long term. Remember, Amazon didn't make money for 7 years.
No, I'm not talking about
but their market share was increasing.
You guys have entered where I wanted you guys to enter. You guys have entered where I wanted you to enter. The reason why I asked that question is this: if Dangote comes out today with a public offer and he shows it's making a loss, will Nigerians still buy? Because I don't think they're making money. I think, like Ben is saying, that
they are making money, but they've not net yet. Net is a big deal.
I know revenue.
Let's assume they are even making a loss. Let's even assume. I will give you reasons I'm saying that they are breaking even. But let's even ignore that. I'm not saying they've recovered their money from investment. No, it's a different argument than that. I think maybe they're looking at it because now I'm looking at it from a market perspective. I'm not looking from an accounting.
Okay, you're talking about net from an OPEX perspective.
Can let us even say they're making a loss. If it comes to the market, I tell you that, you see, it's going to do dual listing, most likely. Dual listing. And I will expand on that so that those that don't understand. Expand on dual listing. It means that it's going to list in Nigeria and the UK. I don't know if it's going to list in perfect. I don't think it's going to list in the Arab world. I'm not sure, but I can tell you categorically that the Qatar sovereign fund, there's interest. There's interest. There are sovereign funds that are interested. See, Dangote's refinery has created some kind of excitement in that African capital market. So
don't be surprised. Europe will buy. Europe will want to buy.
So can that also will definitely. The question is that people should not expect. I don't think it's an investment you expect 20x, but it's an investment that definitely is going to be. It's going to put Nigeria into another projection.
Let me ask you this question. I don't know if you know football that well, but is Dangote a Messi or an Philip Osondu?
I don't feel Posondo.
So
Dangote is linked up with
it's not a Messi or a Filippo Sondo.
Buffon. Dangote Fire is the Buffon.
You say who? Ageless, yeah. Okay, interesting answer. Okay, I hear you.
Dangote is going to attract a lot of firms to list, and also it's going to bring in. See, when he went to shake President Trump in Qatar, I think people missed.
You know they were talking. You know the guy was telling Trump something. The guy was telling Trump something that this is Dangote, and Trump likes that kind of thing. That this is the richest man in Africa. He was pointing to him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think the optics. Dangote has done a good job for Nigeria in terms of optics. I think the only thing is just that Nigeria has to carry it on. And I was not surprised when the NGX had to visit him and they followed up and they said, the listing of Dangote. Urea plans is ongoing and things like that. Yeah. So we're expecting that.
Like I said, Dangote saved the Nigerian economy. You will argue the largest non-oil exporter in Nigeria today is Dangote. Free urea fertilizer. The largest non-oil exporter is Dangote. The largest capital investment in Nigeria, in history of Nigeria, is Dangote. The largest crude oil export today, that's finished brought today, is Dangote. We can continue, but let's get Hamza. Hamza, hi. Thanks for holding on there. Hamza on chain. Thanks for being there. Hamza, what's on your mind before we round up? You might be one of our last guys. Is Hamza ready? Hey, Hamza.
Sorry, I just came here to learn. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you put speaker out. That's what we called you.
Okay, sorry. I actually just came here to learn.
No worries.
I'm kind of new to the stock market.
No problem.
Stock market. I'm trying to invest newly and all.
No problem.
So a friend of mine actually posted it on his status, and I just said, okay, let me just join and hear what it's about. I'm actually just learning and just listening to what you guys are saying, honestly.
Oh,
I don't have anything to add. I honestly don't have anything to add in these things.
Not a
I don't
problem.
actually know about Nigerian stock market and stuff, so I just came here to learn, honestly.
Gotcha. Ben, what's on your mind? Thanks, Hamza. I appreciate that. Ben, what's on your mind?
Just wanted to say that when you spoke, you said something about the fact that we can't match India in terms of cost of production. I think that's an issue with the real sector. The real sector, the primary sector, we need to invest more in that sector so that some of our inputs that we are even using for manufacturing can become cheaper. And then when you start looking at OPEX and CAPEX for manufacturing companies, it can go down, their margins can go up. So they can be able to come to the international markets and actually compete with some of these other countries, because that's what they are doing. They're trying to make business easier in their countries by reducing cost of production. And reducing cost of production starts with, you have to make a long-term investments in the real sector, in the primary sector. If we can get our steel industry, going, it will change a lot in this country. If we have this functioning steel industry in this country, you can go and meet Toyota. You can go and meet the Japanese guys, the German guys, and start making cases for them to come in here to build factories. That's how impactful the real sector is. So I just wanted to add that. Then I have a question for the stock guy, Olumide.
Yeah, go for it.
Olumide, what are your thoughts on some of these companies that are maybe from oil and gas, energy, and all that? Their stocks are not that liquid, but some of them have very good books. So what are your thoughts on investing in a company that has good books? You look at the books, okay, projections, everything looks good, but for now, the stock is not really liquid, and it looks as if it's a little bit overvalued. So what are your thoughts on that, investing?
So let's start this liquid, because I know that sometimes I raise concern about liquid and liquid, but I think sometimes, oftentimes, because it's exaggerated and people tend to use wrong words. So, okay, what broker do you use, for example? Let's start the question now so that we can solve it. What broker do you use?
This case is not my case. I know I'm asking this question because I'm listening from some people.
Any oil stock is fairly liquid. Any oil stock in Nigeria is fairly liquid, to be fair. So, because I won't push on most of them, and I think the intricacy is be able to read how your broker pushes. So, for example, if you use this traditional broker, for example, there's this order and bid. You see what people are willing to pay for, and you see what people are willing to sell. Then you, if it's much, which really happens, you see. But oftentimes, for stocks that are not really floated, like the Dangote cement and things like that. Yeah, you can have issues like you can have issues like that.
Before you go off, why is Better Glass why is this returning his huge profitability? Better Glass, why is the price of it?
That's an interesting. The company's turnaround has been crazy, 4 times in just half a year.
So why that particular stock? Is there anything special that has happened?
No, fundamental. The stock has been showing prospect. I think I can't remember Zero Fuel. They did even a very good analysis on the stock logistics. The stock has been on a run, and when it broke that 200 naira resistance, it was a non-stop. So you have to also weigh that increased buying. So increased buying it's not just why. So if you look at stocks Nigeria, for example, there are certain stocks when they break levels, instead buying increase. Now look at Transcorp. When Tunelu started buying Transcorp, within 1.5 to 5 naira, the stock went haywire. So for investors, if you look at a stock that has good fundamentals, it might not do much until certain insider come into play. Look at Custodian. When Toyota's Toyota's MD, when he bought into the...
Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.